Welcome to All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. And what we are doing right now is we get a chance to have everybody who is running in the South Ward to be on the show tonight. Because again, we believe in civic discourse, right? We at All Politics Are Local, we think it's very important that that all the candidates get their message out, and that we are able to engage in actually trying to find solutions to the problems that we have. In that line, we always make sure that we have a forum where all the candidates can get their voices heard. We are also going to have Purple Haze on later tonight. And Purple Haze is going to be talking about the state of hip hop. She's a hip hop educator. She is amazing. She will also be on the show later tonight. We will also have a very serious section in the vote in between the candidates forum. And that will be really talking about with the Newark NAACP and a family member of that soldier who was slain.
Major Gulia Dale III.
Right, and so we're gonna do that. We're gonna get started right away. So we have a packed show tonight, but we are starting off our show with, in this heated race for South Ward Council. We have Patrick Council with us. So Patrick Council, welcome to All Politics Are Local. You are running to be South Ward Councilman. We're just going to jump right in here with this question. Patrick Council, what is there about your biography that would make you into a good councilman for the South Ward of Newark?
Man, first of all, good evening to everyone for Politics Are Local. Brother Zayed, Brother Austin, to all my Islamic brothers and sisters out there, we wish you a Ramadan Mubarak. But to answer your question, Brother Austin, if you look at my portfolio, my background, Pat Council has always been present, has always been active in this community, not just in the city of Newark on the front line, but even in the South Ward. It doesn't matter if it's dealing with youth organizing, dealing with young people, youth, young adults, or seniors. Pat Council has been present, and my portfolio shows that I've been active, a very people person, and a servant to the people. And so that's why I look on May 10th to serve the people in not just the great city of Newark, but in this great ward that we call the South Ward. So I'm looking for people to support me, C2, on May 10th.
We always talk about the big issues that are facing particular wards and that are facing Newark in general. Whenever I asked about people talking about issues in the South Ward, one of the first things they point out, one of the first things they bring up is dealing with crime. Often you have lots of, there apparently an uptick in stolen cars, there are certain quality of life crimes, but at the same time, we have issues with trying to call for over-policing. So what is the line that we draw between in public safety in terms of helping to prevent crime and not over-policing? What is your stance on crime and that conundrum that we often have in our community?
Yeah, so, twofold there, right? So I come out of a place of struggle, a movement of talking about injustice and fairness against police brutality. For a long period of time, marched on the streets against it, continue to march against it, and continue to support the CCRB, which is very important in the community. I think one of the things is, outside of community policing and getting police officers engaged that live in our community, that understand the conditions and things that we come from, the demographics that we're in is very important in terms of training, professional development. As you know now, we're under one of the most stringent consent decrees that is out here. I believe that, the mayor has been doing a good job at navigating with the public safety director to ensure that the policing that is happening in the city is critical. While we were out here doing the Black Lives Matter movement during the summertime, we had no incidents. Everywhere we went, it was about partnerships, partnering with our local nonprofits, our other community organizations that are out here that was helping to stand up against injustices and helping to police our own communities. Right, we have to take on accountability as well, and policing our own communities. So it is very important for us to understand that from that perspective. And then it's important for us to know that we have to continue to grow our public safety department, that where folks fall off, where attrition happen, we have to continue to build a quadrante of people in our public safety area that looks like us, that responds like us, and that acts like us in critical matters that matters to us, and then engage in self-awareness and understanding how important it is that as people of color, Black, brown people, that we learn how to police ourselves, our minds, and change our mindset of what it is that we're doing. So all of those things are important and important ingredients and recipes in trying to, resurge a neighborhood, a community, and a city.
So you mentioned many concerns in terms of public safety. For you, as an advocate for the South Ward, what policy would you most advocate for in dealing with public safety, policing, crime?
Yeah, so I think public safety is universal, right? I'm advocating for the CCRB, which I believe is very important, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, with subpoena power that will be able to, help and serve those folks who feel like injustice has been a part of them. Also helping to ensure that when there are situations of crime that take place, that the residents in the city have an independent voice to be able to go and to deal with these matters and to be able to handle them in a way that's appropriate. As it relates to policing on the street, as I said before, my whole focus is going to be not only on community policing, but building partnerships and bridges, not just with our police department, but with other entities, so that we can be able to look at how we send a message out to this community about our responsibility about policing, because it's collective. And I think it's very important that we build this kind of collective mindset around safety and security in our communities.
Zai, do you have any questions around public safety for us clarification?
Patrick, you wear several hats that are important: recreation, clergy. You have an activist background, right? How do those various hats that you're wearing and those spaces that they represent inform your vision for what you're trying to do?
I'm glad you asked that question, Brother Zayed, because it's all about service. It's all about being a servant to people and being able to meet people where they are, and being able to be people-centric, and to be present for people, to hear their issues and concerns, and understand how important it is to be on the front line of any issue, good or indifferent, and being able to speak truth to power to situations that come up before us. We've been in the battlefield for a long period of time in front of a whole cadre of different people, but we never shied away from the issues. We never shied away from concerns, and we sure enough didn't side away from the respect that we have as people. It's all about being a servant to people too.
Okay, there. All right, so we're moving to the next question, because I know we're rolling along. So when it comes to the South Ward, there's always a search for or a question about economic development. Is it happening too much? Is it happening too little? There's always issues of gentrification. What do you think about, what is your view? What is your vision of what economic development needs, in the South Ward? What would you be fighting for? What would you be advocating for in terms of economic development?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. One, is never enough development, especially the right development. I'm definitely going to be fighting to create equitable growth in the ward. That's important because as the ward grows as a whole and people are able to see it happening simultaneously, then they get excited about what is going on and what is happening in their ward. And it doesn't gain or show a position of us treating one area or one side of the ward one way. So I believe it's important not only to advocate and legislate around creating equitable growth in the ward, but creating those kind of collaborations and strengthening and creating anchor institutions in the ward to provide deliverables, to help us to navigate and advocate with the administration to be in the forefront to get the things that are needed in the South Ward.
You were talking about equity within the South Ward, even development. Can you explain what that means? Are you saying that there are some parts of the South Ward that are being developed and other parts are being ignored. Can you be more explicit about that?
Yeah, I definitely be more specific, right? So when we're talking about equity, we know that in the Clinton Hill area, there was 248 properties that are distressed. That means that they're either there with property on it or vacant lot property. And we want to make sure that as we tackle the issues over there, that we continue to tackle the issues down in Seth Gordon with 16,000 properties that is on its way with the demise of Seth Gordon. But at the same time, we can't forget about making sure that we continue to have this growth and equitable growth in the Weekway section and ensure that the integrity of housing lot and capital and historic oversight is still in place. So that's the kind of equitable growth that we're talking about, that as we do all of these things together, it excites the ward and it also brings excitement to the city. And it allows people to be able to come in and look at what it is that we're doing. And so when they get to the table, the conversation will begin to change around what we're looking for, what the residents are looking for, because this battle is not about what I want, but it's about what we have to do to make sure that this ward continues to move forward, because as the ward moves forward, the city will begin to grow and expand. And we already see that from the port and from all of the other expansions that is moving through the South Ward. That is very important in the area of growth and development. When we're talking about the airport, when we're talking about major transportation coming this way, and when we're talking about major railways.
And Zay, do you have more clarification questions when it comes to economic development in the South Ward?
Yo, that's a mouthful too. And I know we're up against time with Patrick, but I think the advent of the development that you just alluded to, Patrick, the expansion of path and transportation networks into the South Ward looms large in a very healthy way on one level, but yet at the same time, it may also make folks very leery about potentially being pushed out of their community. How do we strike that balance between that natural development of that transportation network coming into the ward, yet at the same time making sure that the folks who are local to the community can benefit from it and not feel pushed out?
That's a powerful question, Brother Muhammad. And you know what we always say, brother. It's about not just self-preservation, but it's always about us identifying who we are, right, and putting us in positions where we are included. And so as all of these things grow, we begin to grow resources where we included, be it Live Newark, where we're producing and getting income to create home ownership for other folks. If it's inclusionary zoning, where we ensure that 20% of our residents have adequate spaces and places to live when they're building 30 or 15 unit places. If it's talking about creating a small business and working with small business to development to create job opportunities and keep us going. But we have to empower ourselves, and we have to understand that empowerment and entitlement are two different things. And so when we're talking about empowerment, we have to have the tools to know that the city is going to be here to invest in us smartly, so that while we're investing and while we're growing and gaining, we're also understanding the narrative that we got to be able to do for ourselves and not look for anyone else to be able to come in and do it. And so we have to present these opportunities for us. And when we do that, it changes how people come to the table and sit down and deal with us.
Okay, we are starting to run out of time, but we're going to have to throw in one last question, and that question is: you're asking voters to make a particular choice. When you're asking voters to make that choice for you, what makes you better than the other candidates who are running?
I've been out in this community for a very long time, soldiering, doing an extreme amount of work. I've been present. I've been active, people-centric, forward-thinking. I've been about goal and solution orientation. I've been building bridges, bringing people together. I'm a mediator and able to walk on all sides. I've been, down with the folks in the vineyard, and will continue to be with the people in the vineyard, working and struggling for everyday people, working people, creating opportunities for livable wages and better wages, and more importantly, about self-empowerment. The South Ward, needs a leader, needs a visionary, needs someone who understands what struggle is, and has been in the struggle and has been leading all the way. I've shown that as the Director of Recreation, Culture Affairs, and Senior Services, as the pastor of St. John Baptist Church, as the South Ward Democratic Chairman, as the founder of Jackie Robinson Little League, as the co-founder of Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, as a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, as the former vice chair of Newark Public Schools, as the former president of Newark Preschool Council. I have found all of those things and been leading all the way. And now I'm asking the people to come out and continue to help me lead this ward and bring it into another season on May 10th, asking the folks to come out and vote C2. I want to thank All Politics Are Local for allowing me to come on and be able to share with you guys. You know, it's always power and love when we get together. It's always about, you know, the upliftment of our people and continue to make sure that things are happening and that we're on the front line.
All right, great. And actually just 15 seconds. Favorite hip hop artist, individual or group, or the hip hop song or artist that best represents your campaign?
You did it, brother. Eric B. and Rakim. Always, brother. Rakim. Rakim to God, brother. Any selection off of Paid in Full. Thinking of a master plan. Ain't nothing but sweat inside my hand. So I dig into the pocket of the money I get deeper. Still coming up with lint. So I start my mission. I leave them a residence. Thinking, how can I get some dead presidents? I need money. I used to be a stick-up kid, but now I think of all the devious things I did. That's what he said. He used to roll up. But more importantly, there was one line that Rakim said. He says, I can take a phrase that's merely heard, flip it. Now it's a daily word. He said, I can get iller than all the killing involved, with no alarm. Rakim will remain calm. He said, while all confusion is going on around me, I can continue to remain calm.
Got it going, Johnny.
You definitely are down with it. So I appreciate you, what you've done. And
you don't stop.
We are. I know, but we're going to move it along. But thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you. Good luck, and we're going to move on to the next candidate. But thank you.
Yes, sir. Black power, man.
Black power and all power to the people.
All power to the people.
All right. So that was the first interview. We're going to be rolling on very quickly. We have the second person who is running for South Ward Council, and we are introducing Terrence Bankston. Terrence Bankston, welcome to All Politics Are Local. Glad to have you on.
You to Terrence.
Happy to be back on with you guys.
There you go.
All right, so we're gonna jump right into it because we have a full lineup, and we know we want to get as much in as possible. So throwing right in it, what about your biography makes you the choice for council, for the South Ward councilman?
I mean, I think I've shared with your audience before, and these things are definitely highlighted on my website, bankstonfornewark.com. I'm not just a son of the South Ward, but I'm at 39 years old, have served in 5 directorships. 2 of those directorships were with the city of Newark. One as the Director of Constituent Affairs, where I was responsible for producing something that's still used as a resource in the city today, the Newark Constituent Services Guide. And then also serving as the director of the Newark Youth One Stop, where under my leadership, we were responsible for increasing the literacy rate of our participants by double digits. And so outside of that, I've had work experience in higher education space, serving as a director at Bloomfield College. I've also served as the director of PC2E, which is a parent advocacy agency that bridged the gap between both charter community and, I don't like to say our traditional public schools, but I'll say that for this audience, traditional public schools as well. I'm a proven administrator. And in those particular roles, it just wasn't a title. We actually had measurable results, a record to run on. And I think that the next council person needs to be a proven administrator, as well as a collaborator. And yes, a visionary as well.
All right. So, getting into the second question that we ask, and when talking about people about the South Ward, one of the things they say first in terms of their concerns, and it's true in many different places, they say their first concern is crime. And when we're talking about the issue of crime, it's very always delicate. We have issues where there are lots of life crimes, right? Like in terms of car theft, that kind of stuff. And then we also have issues with not wanting to be over-policed. So when we're looking at this, what is the specific policies that you think need to be pushed in the South Ward in terms of crime and public safety?
As the next South Ward councilman, which I look forward to serving this community as, I'm going to just be hands-on. We haven't had a hands-on council person at this level, and hands-on means collaborating effectively with our police captain. It means working with a police captain for longer than a year or two. We've undergone leadership changes, and our council leadership has been silent on that. And so I think that can help. I'm going to be more involved in terms of re-examining the number of police allocated and how they are deployed. What are our deployment methods and tactics? And making that a priority in the South Ward from the councilman's level will be totally different. But I think it's necessary to better address crime. Specifically for me, I want to target gun violence. I think that, when we look at a consistent crime rate of 300% over the past 8 years in terms of shootings, and those are being conducted or carried out by young Black men under the age of 25 years old. And so we need to have actual alternatives for them that they are interested in. And that's not just limited to employment, but social engagement activities that are crime deterrents, I think would be important and needs to be pushed straight from the council office. A stronger collaboration with our nonprofits. There's about 34 that are funded to serve our most at-risk population, we call it. And based on what you hear and what people feel, our whole ward is at risk. And so guns and garbage has to be addressed every day and differently. I would like to see explore the option of remote police precincts in each of our public high schools within the ward. Part of the role of the police should be to create positive engagements, not necessarily policing, but really being a part of that community and protecting our babies. Those security guards are there to protect buildings. Who's protecting our babies? Ensure that there is an active parent engagement group that we listen to and respond to and respect, and a student government group at each high school. I think that that's important. Explore the option of armed guards paid for by the district. And some people's going to say, where can you get that money from? Where will you get that money from? When I think about Weequahic High School being one of our schools who was on average sending back $1 million in activity funds a year, I say we need to relook at that budget, and the councilman should weigh in on that and provide suggestions. I would like to see them standing guard at the closest and primary bus stops for at least 30 minutes to an hour before and after school. I think that presence of support and action, if necessary, will be key when we think about the bloody Thanksgiving we had at Shabazz High School. Part of my plan of action to deal with public safety is also introducing this concept of the South Ward Social Justice and Diversity Academy. There's a link that I can share with your audience and a website where back in December, I unveiled this plan, which I think will help to address not just provide some great alternatives, but it's going to address from a policy perspective, social justice issue, including crime head on. But part of that action plan is also, partnering better with our police captain, our superintendent of schools, and the mayor to just look at better options and solutions. Also to partner with the school board differently. We have school board members who run and represent really the whole city, but some of them reside in the South Ward. I would like a stronger relationship with them. And I want to look at ways to investigate and better address concerns of students and parents and of the NPS staff, because I think that makes a difference as well in terms of crime and public safety. Lastly, I would say re-examine budgeting practices, because I think, again, we're wasting millions of dollars and there's no accountability for that.
I want to just follow up briefly with, you said that you wanted armed guards in schools, and you were talking about why that? Why? Because that goes into what we're talking about in terms of questions of, is it over policing? Is it not? Is it safety? Does it protect them?
Well, Rutgers University has a pilot program like this, and it's not considered over policing by their community. I don't think we've tried that. Right now, we're under policing. And again, this is not about them coming in there, arresting and policing our kids. It's about having them engage with police differently. And we need to protect our schools. We've been doing a horrible job at it. The idea that you can show up to a high school and shoot at our students, and the guards are inside, they protecting the building while our kids are left vulnerable, is just mind blowing to me. So we at least have to have leadership that's willing to have those tough conversations.
All right. And Zai, do you have a clarification or backup question? We're moving along.
Yeah, Terrence, you raised an intriguing question around budget issues. Budget management, money's being sent back that should have been invested in some of the very things that all of us are concerned about. Why don't you highlight some of those concerns that you're talking about specifically?
So one of the things, I met with the superintendent and our business administrator about this right before COVID. And, part of what we assess from that is that every principal isn't necessarily a director or a manager. Some of them just are not good at budgeting things. And so you've even had situations where we've had co-principals and things of that nature. But one of the things that's required is that when they do budgeting, is that parent engagement. How much parent engagement, I think, is the standard is so low. I think it's one parent they have to engage. But that doesn't happen. When I talk to parents at schools, they're not even aware that that's a policy. They're not even aware that they have the power and authority to weigh in on individual school budgets. And so when we think about, whether it's a competency issue, we know that definitely we should not be sending back $1 million at just one school. But what that collective amount is, and when I think about specifically the South Ward, that money can be used way differently. When I think about our students standing outside on a corner begging for change, selling candy bars, and we're sending back $1 million from Weequahic High School alone, something's wrong with that. And the council has been silent about that. If Donald Tucker was on that council, God rest his soul, it would not happen. If this was back when Sharp James was the South Ward councilman and the mayor, this would not be happening, and something would be done about it.
So we're going to jump into that next phase of economic development.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of questions about potential for unequal development inside of the South Ward. What is your vision for the current situation in the South Ward with economic development, and what specific policy proposals would you have or would you advocate for?
So I'm 39 years old, and I don't believe that there's been any real development all my life. Part of it has been this thing that we know doesn't work, which is why visionary leadership is going to be important in terms of our next council person. But, the trickle down effect. Obviously, the time that we live in, and we got to meet ourselves where we are. But the time that we live in, we've focused mostly on downtown, and I get it. But when it comes to economic development, the downtown area is going to be the engine. But those that's on this call and those that love the South Ward like I love it and know it like I know it, the time for us to be a focus, the time for us to be, like I said, not self-centered, but selfish is now. We the engine of this city. And so what happens downtown can't just simply trickle down here. It has to be with intention that when we're building and developing downtown, that we have a strategic plan or strategic intentions to hold folks accountable that come into our community that have the resources to also do development that is beneficial to the community within our individual neighborhoods. Part of what I'm going through right now in terms of not just my campaign, but just as a resident here. I think it was June of last year, the mayor sent out plans for a 2-year economic recovery effort. As the next councilman, I need to be well aware of what that is, what that means, and hopefully have a chance not to just be supportive of the mayor, but perhaps chime in as it relates to the South Ward. And so some of this 3 bullets that I'll do different, or what my plan is, at least, is to work with my colleagues and the mayor to attract new businesses that want to come to the South Ward and stay here. I look at utilizing the TV studio that we have, and I'm a Arts High graduate alumni. I was a television communication major, but also did some of this work at Bloomfield in terms of telling our story and promoting who we are. But also we can use the studio to not only interview businesses in terms of those that exist, but to help promote them at no cost to those businesses. Little things like that, I think, can help drive the economy positively here in the South Ward. The other point I would say is I would assign a ward representative to our business district. They just haven't had a relationship with the council office that's been meaningful or engaging. And so they are very much a part of our community. And I want to make sure that we don't just hire staff that are giving out turkeys and toys, but are actually skilled in these particular areas. The last thing would be assigning someone who would focus on workforce development. I obviously have a history with that, but I would want someone on my staff that can really, really focus on that, because jobs are going to be, and not just any kind of job, but good jobs with mobility. And I like to say career opportunities for our residents.
I know that we are running out of time, but Saeed, Can you give him? Do you have follow-up questions on economic development?
Same question we just asked Pat Council. We've got some transportation that's looking to come into the South Ward. It's a natural outgrowth of the airport, right? And it looks like very powerful, positive growth of a very natural kind. But at the same time, because of the difficult issue of affordable housing is one that's very present with us. A lot of folks are worried also about potentially being pushed out in a very gentrification kind of way. What's your take on that development coming our way, and how can we balance that coming in without folks getting pushed out? What's your vision on that?
I think we got to re-examine this inclusionary zoning. I know the mayor made some changes, but these folks have a lot of money. So the idea that they can pay a fee, and it's not really a penalty, but they would pay $50,000 or $100,000 and don't have to build affordable housing, for example, I don't think it's smart. I think inclusionary zoning is a great piece of legislation, but it's not necessarily helping the folks that we say that we care the most about. And so I would want to make sure that, one, these plans are in the best interest of not just the community, but the people who make this community great. And so I want to dig into that a little bit more to understand the changes, but also this loophole, I think it does more harm than good. I'll put it that way. Also, making this neighborhood safe. Guns and garbage run rampant. We are living in a time where rats are sitting on top of our garbage bags and cans in broad daylight. And so we talk about the South and the West has the highest number of foreclosures in the county. So we're talking about how do we utilize places like La Casa and others to not just move people into our community, but to keep people from our community here who want to stay here, and making sure that the councilman cares about that. So I want this to be a community where people who want to buy a home can buy a home, but when you come outside of your home, you're not in fear of being carjacked, robbed at gunpoint while you're trying to get in or out of your car, or you're not surrounded by guns and garbage.
All right, and we are just about out of time. But one of the things that our last question that we're going to ask is, who's your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group, or what song or artist do you think best represents your campaign?
I will say definitely Biggie Smalls, Kick in the Door. One of the things I appreciate and like about that song is because regardless of, it really transcended generations and color lines and went outside of hip hop. Everyone knows what it's like to feel that way. And so while it's not about promoting gun violence, because we know the rest of that song, it's about the idea of when you want change and when you have to fight for, power is not conceded to, it's taken. The community, the people's choice, Terrence Bankston, we are kicking in the door, and we are kicking in the door with the citizens as a priority.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being on All Politics Are Local. Good luck on your campaign. And we're getting ready to go on to the next candidate. But
I appreciate you. Make sure you guys vote line 3C. Take care.
All right, take care, man. All right, so that was the second candidate. We are going right into Douglas Freeman. Douglas Freeman is coming up right now. So we're putting Douglas Freeman on. Welcome, Douglas.
Good evening, everyone. Douglas Freeman, good evening. All Politics Are Local, and we definitely local.
All right, so we're doing well, man. We're doing well. Glad to have you on our show. We're going to jump right in with the first question. What about your biography? What about who you are makes you the best candidate for the South Ward council person in the city of Newark?
Well, one of the things is, when you look at that question, I don't consider taking, brothers and sisters against each other for the best. So all of us have some type of improvements that we have completed. But as far as Douglas Freeman, I'm on the ground. For the last 10 years, you can see the developments that's going on right here in our community, the sweat equity that was put into all the different growth projects. I have helped different organizations, different cities, especially the city of Newark, to continue to recognize that the South Ward needs to be redeveloped, right? The South Ward residents is exactly what I put my time into, making sure that we make sure our parks is fine, make sure our streets is great, make sure our seniors is take care of the children and all the different individuals that come into our area, to make sure that they understand that we know our worth as a community, we know our value as a community. I have a background in utilities. I have, went to school at Weequahic High School, and we could just go on and on about the work. So, whatever you want to bring these questions, I can answer them, and we can talk about the different projects that we're doing right now, not when I get in office.
All right. Well, thank you. And going into the second question we're going to ask you is about crime in the South Ward. We talk about over policing. We talk about not having enough police. We talk about crime within it. What is your specific policy that you would advocate for in dealing with crime in the South Ward? What is your vision of dealing with it?
I want us to enhance the community policing, right? So, we can't sit here and say that, we want to not have our residents, incarcerated, and then we want to incarcerate them and come up with policies of putting police officers in areas where they shouldn't be, right? So one thing we do know is that when we work together as a community and we develop as a community, then you don't need as many police that you need. So let me tell you what I mean by that. One is that in the South Ward, the Explorer program, which is a police program that is actually being done in the North Ward, and it also has some of our young residents here. It's not at its full capacity here. When we look at the PAL doesn't exist here. So when we look at the crime, we have a lot of children that actually they have a complex right now, and they have an attitude, right? So we look at the stolen cars. When we look at the stolen cars, it's always identified to say, okay, Newark residents is always the one committing the crimes. That's not always the case, right? So when you look at the recent incident that happened when 2 people lost their lives on Elizabeth Avenue with a stolen car. But did we look to see how they're getting these cars? How are they obtaining these cars? Is the people with these cars, have a financial decline in their lifestyle from these other areas? Because I know back in the 90s, that was something that was high, increased in stolen cars. It was increased in robberies and all these different things that happen. But when we look at it, we never dig in to see exactly what's the root cause of the crime that's going on. Someone benefits from the crime. And that's where we have to focus on. We don't benefit because we're used as the callous, we're used as the product to go into the prison. We do know that the prison system has to have 80% occupancy. So when we look at that, we know it's privatized. So, you can't sit here and say one thing and then do it another. So we definitely need to make sure that we work with the police department, but we got to work with the community organizations. All right, we have to make sure that the community grassroots organizations is not corporate-led. We have a corporate-led grassroots effort in the South Ward. There has been plenty of plans put before the South Ward. You got Choice Neighborhood. You have all the different type of plans that came from Rutgers, the master plan. It has not been done. Why? Because we allowed corporations to come in here. They divided our community, and they continue to mix up the way that we operate as citizens.
You're muted, John.
Do you have a follow-up question about what he said about crime and his vision, those policies?
How do you feel about some of the notions that are going on in the South Ward? Also, is a ground for some interesting experimentation with community organizations. We have a No Community Street Team. We have the Hub, and we have entities like that started and centered in the South Ward and have good reputations in terms of what they do. How do you see those programs as a part of that larger strategy that you're talking about?
Well, I actually was at those meetings when they was having the planning. I concentrated more on Weekway Park, getting the drugs, prostitution, and the area of Weekway Park cleaned up. So I do understand what it takes to clean up an area. We went from being a deaf place, Weekway Park, to 400,000 people in Weekway Park to revitalizing the area. So when you look at how do we operate, we have to work together. Everybody plays their part. So there's a street team, yes, it is, that goes out and do certain things with individuals, and being out there in the streets, with some of them at former and present. We were doing food pantries together back in COVID, and them brothers and sisters from NCST was right there with us, and we was emptying trucks. So there's a lot of work that goes in these organizations, but there also are organizations that are forgotten. The ones that put in a lot of work just like these organizations too, right? So when we look at the sweat equity piece, and I don't know, a lot of people talk about budgets, but they never talk about the sweat equity value budget that never included into the budget of any city government, any governmental agencies or any large nonprofits. You know, when you look at that volunteer effort, right? So you have the mom who's on the streets making sure the child has peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but she gave it to 60 children. So everybody in this neighborhood is actually a street team member. And that's where we have to make sure that we understand that it's not about one group. It's not about this group, that group, or any other group. We have to come together as a collaborative effort, with a collaborative effort, and that's what I do best, is to bring people together, and we need to make sure that we take care of the South Ward as a united front, not as individual organizations, not as organizations that have meetings all the time, and that's all they have. So we need to see sweat equity. We need to see the value of the work that's being performed. We need to see the individuals who say that they're doing the work, because, you know, there's been some good brothers and sisters who's been out here in these streets, and they need to have their shot too. So it's a collective, holistic approach that needs to be done. And then, as Islam would say, it's called a do for self. And we need to do for self in this community. And that means everybody who wants to participate should have a shot in being inclusive.
When we look at the issue of economic development, and you look at the South Ward, what is your vision of what the South Ward needs in terms of economic development, and what policy would you advocate on that behalf?
Okay, so the vision is still the same vision. Airport Village. Why? Because when you look at the airport, it's supposed to bring in revenue to our community. The vision is to advocate for the PATH train extension. The vision is to make sure that the aquarium is built so that the Weekway Park Lake can be filtered and cleaned out so we can put paddle boats in the restaurant back there. The vision is to continue to have a bowling alley, a roller skate ring, and different things that go along with the surfboarding project that was already put on the table. It's the same vision back in 2012. It's the same vision that was put on the plate by the community elders. It's the same vision that we've been doing all along. So when you look at the economic growth, you have Hawthorne, you have Avon, you have Chancellor, you have the U, which is Bergen, Lyons, and Clinton Avenue. All of this goes together. Those are the arteries, right? You have to have bus transportation that goes within our South Ward to make sure that we communicating with downtown. We're not looking at downtown to be the only place that develop. We have a place right here. When you look at Jacksonville, we went to Jacksonville, we went to Atlanta, we looked and see what is the airport Aerotropolis program. In Jacksonville, the airport alone brought in $30 billion on the outside of the airport, right? So these are things that we need to develop, but we also have to be careful on how we develop, right? So when we have these different mixed use properties, commercial, and we need to have shot at it first, but not to be able to take a storefront with a triple net lease and we develop it and then we can't pay the lease because they went up on the rent. No, we need to be having decent, inclusive agreements that when we come together and we open up a shop, that we not put out of business. And that's another thing, is that we can't overcode enforce our small business owners. We need to develop a business one-on-one plan. We need to make sure that they understand how to be in business. We need to make sure they know about assets and liabilities. We need to let them know how it is to have employment, employees, and exactly how to run your business, not just to call code enforcement on them and make them run out of business when they put $60,000 into a storefront and then we hurrying up trying to put them out of business, but somebody else could come and buy the land in the property.
Zai, do you have any other question? Do you have a question or a follow-up question to ask on
the policy piece, though, right? So we have to make sure that.
Go ahead, Douglas. That's all right.
Forgot about the policy piece, right? So, one of the things that I did notice when we put forth the airport village, that we was boxed out of, and that was from, leadership. That the ideal came from Yvonne Patterson, right? To create this airport village. And then she went down to Prudential and had all these different people come in. We have to put in policy that if a community resident submits a plan that is documented, copyrighted, and that we do not try to use it for ourselves and give it to another developer or anyone else that brings it forth. So we will have to make sure that we continue to respect our residents, to make sure that we understand that they're just as valuable as any consultant that we bring here. So a lot of these ideals that have been put out on the table have come from Newark residents. They've been used, abused, And we are no longer taking that. And that's a policy that I'm looking for. And another policy is a policy to put together a community of Newark residents to deal with these utility companies to make sure that these poles that have hanging wires, so it'd be a subcommittee in a committee that would deal with them, along with the PSE&G lights that also are dim. We should have LED lights right now. We do not have them. We have wires from Verizon hanging, Altice hanging, and our kids and our children have become accustomed to this, where they can almost do jump rope every day going to school with wires hanging. So that policy definitely will be the first one that I work with, is to go after the utility companies and understand that what is done in Baskin Ridge will be done here in the city of Newark and definitely in the South Ward.
Zai, do you have a follow-up question? We have we have a little over 2 minutes left.
He's rolling.
On economic development. If not, we can
kind of answer that a little bit. But what I will say is that when I spoke about the Verizon, the PSNG, and Altice, we're doing that right now. So we already have an agreement that they're going to clean these wires up, and that's done right now. We had over $2 million of outside infrastructure done. Weekway Park, Elizabeth Avenue, the Dividend Hill, that's over there. Already negotiated with the county and the consultants to have that fixed. It's going to increase the value of the homes on Elizabeth Avenue in the Weekway section. We're looking for the Clinton Hill to come up to speed. So I did get with the mayor on one of the projects, was a house that was dilapidated while I was around here campaigning, and I told the resident I'm going to talk to the mayor. He knocked it down. So we need to go and find out who own these properties, because we do know that not everybody that has an LLC is some people that we don't know. So there is some people that's right beside us that own these properties, that know the value of these properties going to go up once these improvements are done, right? So you're looking at increased values of homes right now. This is stuff that we are doing right now as a community, not elected to any position, right? So not taking money from anybody, no city, no county. We just say, fix it, get it done. This is what we need. Now it's time for our residents to come up to speed, because we're going to be set behind if we continue to go this way, that we continue not to work together. We continue to bash each other or come up with different ways or not to economically improve ourselves. We're going to be behind. Our children are going to be behind. You talk about putting police officers in schools. So what?
All right, you can't.
Did he freeze?
Froze?
He was rolling too.
All right. So yeah, I know we're starting to come toward the end, but we're going to try to get him back so that he could just finish that, and we can.
Line of thought, yeah.
But he is. So Zaid, tell us about the importance of these elections while I try to get him back on the phone. I'm just going to focus on you and the importance of the South Ward. What has been your experience in it as we just try to deal with the technical difficulty?
People may not realize, because these are younger folks, and we have a younger audience, that the South Ward was the power base of the community once upon a time, right? Shabazz, and then South Side, and then Weekway High School were powerhouse institutions, right? The Black Business Corridor was a very healthy and a very proud one. And the South Ward has a history that has some prior development that merits, looking at. I think that would help sharpen the vision for the future of the ward, right? So, this is you live in the South Ward, you need to be concerned about who's going to be bringing these questions to the table. Most of the candidates appear to be very, very strong community presence background, community active backgrounds, which are good and sound, and they're good candidates. Right, but to that young man's last point, folks can't do it alone. Community has to be involved and be engaged, and voting is just the beginning of that. Right, it's the least that everybody can do. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Freeman's having technical difficulties. We'll bring him back on later. But we have our next candidate. We have Christina Cherry on, and we are going to start that interview with her. So welcome to All Politics Are Local. We are glad to have you on. Your mic is on, so just welcome.
All right. Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Well, glad that you are here. We're just going to start just throwing right into it, and we'll start with a question of biography. what is there about your background that makes you the best candidate for the Central Ward?
Okay, so for the South Ward,
South Ward.
so it's okay. So a little bit that I don't really talk about is my federal experience and my military experience. I was a logistics specialist. I did contract writing for a living. Prior to retiring out of the VA hospital. So that's one point. In the last 3 years, I've dedicated my time to, work in this community, work in the South Ward after having my own issues. I think that my unique what I'm seeing and here in the South Ward now is that, we have a lot of funding and we have a lot of money that's coming into the South Ward or coming into the Newark period. And I just don't see it funneling down to our actual ward. And that's one of the things that I want to focus on is that when funding does come for our community, that we see it here, because right now we don't see it. Also, I don't know, I'm also the president of my association here on South 17th Street. And, our focus here for the last 3 years has been improving the quality of life. This is what I do all day. I have a community phone. Everyone knows they can call me if there is an issue. I just finished helping with 78 Tillenhast. Got a post about it. And as soon as I found out about it, just got on it. And so I just love what I do for the community because my life experience, unfortunately, hasn't been the best. And so I see the effects of not knowing what needs to be done or how to go about it affects our community currently right now. So I'm here to be representation for the community and for someone who has had many trials and tribulations, even here, and quality of life issues, and has been told straight up who's been told by the administration that I wouldn't win some of these situations. I'm here to represent be the liaison. So.
And I think that may segue well into our next question, which is about crime policing. You do hear many complaints about the South Ward and crime, and there is also a tension with over policing. And there's a tension, like, how much do you call the police? How much do you want to hire more police, right? Like, so what is your vision of the problems that deal with crime and how to solve it? Like, what policy would you be advocating for?
So when it comes to crime here in the South Ward, it's an array of things, right? I think that when it comes to, I'm just going to address them separately, in regards to the police department, and over policing, I don't see over policing here in the South Ward. Unfortunately, I think that right now they lack funding, unfortunately, to do their jobs because unfortunately, 2 days ago, my car just got hit in front of my house from a speed bump, a car went over a speed bump and literally hit my car onto the sidewalk. This happened 2 days ago. And, unfortunately, I had to make a bunch of phone calls because if not, the police probably wouldn't get here until 3 a.m. of some sort. It just happened at midnight because of not having enough police to be able to answer all phone calls, right? But I don't believe that I do believe that a lot of what's happening with the crimes in the South Ward have to do with economic disparity that's happening right now, and I do feel that, we need to start at a community level, right? From a large part of what I do is I know all the sets on my block. I know I speak to everyone around here. I understand what's going on, but I feel like if we deal with things at a community level and really try to push our young Black men and women, Black and brown, towards entrepreneurship and really start to what they're doing out here in the corners, right? And the crimes that they're committing, it's almost like running a business, right? How do we in turn change that, right? To do things the legal way, right? And help them to reduce crime, right? By helping them to see what their potential is. I know that the other day I asked a gentleman out here, one of the kids from the corner, to help me carry a table. And he said he didn't know I was the owner of my house. And he said to me, Cherry, if you started a moving company, I would be doing this all day. So you're telling me that I can take 2 guys off the corners of the block by just starting a moving company? Now my wheels are turning of how can I start a moving company and get them involved in this and away from what the crime that they're committing or from dealing drugs on the corner. And so, my approach and a large part of my platform is engaging my generation before me and bridging that with seniors, but to push them towards being able to be their own bosses, right? How to create LLCs, how to create nonprofits. And so if we can try to change their mindset and show them that it's possible to have financial freedom and how to go about that, then we'll have less crimes, right? They're not worried about feeding their families, they're, or being hungry. I fed all of, the South Ward, the entire COVID. I started the Trunk and Feed Fridays and started having conversations because they were hungry, right? And they didn't know, we were not getting paid. No one had jobs. And so I feel like that right now the increase, in violence and crimes have to do directly connected with, the lack of opportunities. So.
Zai, do you have a follow-up question?
I'm just intrigued. I want to talk about your military experience a little more, because that's something that no one else has raised. Mm-hmm. Right, and you also are raising questions about whether or not we have enough police in the community at a time when a lot are saying that we're over policed. How do you feel about some of the current strategies that are going on right now to place the community at the center of what we call public safety, and how community-based strategies like some of the violence reduction efforts, Street Team and others, are involved to try and engage our kids who are at those risky spaces where they need to be engaged with folks other than the police. How do you feel about that?
I am in complete support of the Newark Street Team. They're actually around the corner from me on 16th Street. I support and will continue to support, nonviolent organizations like the Newark Street Team, and pushing for, more block associations and neighborhood associations, because a large part of what I've been doing as well, and we've had quite a few captains, right? Is bringing, the police department, even the rookies, people, the new police officers to come out and actually engage with the community. Now they only find themselves in cars and in vehicles and not engaging. And so the community feels threatened by them. The police feels threatened by the community. How do we change that, right? Because, there needs to be some law and order, but I also feel that there's certain things that, the police doesn't need to respond to, and that we need, like the Newark Street Team and the funding to go to those organizations to do what they're doing. Right now, one of the things that have been brought up and that I appreciate, and I do see that my son goes to Avon Avenue school, is, with the crossing guards, right? And so right now, that's something that I was a part of the public safety roundtable about crossing guards and their lack of here in the South Ward. We have, Hawthorne, University, Carver, what is this one? Another charter school on Byron Avenue, 5 schools and probably 1 crossing guard, right? And the Newark Street Team has stepped up to be there after school to make sure that our kids are safe. And especially with all these carjackings that are happening, we need more of that out there for our children and our community.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're going to the next question about economic development.
Mm-hmm.
What is your vision for what is needed inside of the South Ward? Like where is it at? Where is it at now?
Mm-hmm.
And what specific policy would you advocate for to push it in the direction that you think it needs to go?
We have corridors here. We have Avon Avenue, Clinton Avenue, Lyons, full of commercial businesses and no actual businesses in them, right? And as I said before, a large part of my platform is showing people how to go about starting their own businesses, and figuring out a way to mainstream that process, because no offense to City Hall, they're very antiquated and very caveman technology. You have to do everything is by paper. We're in 20.
Oh, what happened to her? Did she just?
Sorry about
there
that.
You go. Okay, you were rolling.
I was like, really?
This call is gonna still keep on. So sorry. You just told them I cannot right now.
And so
figuring out how to mainstream that. hold on, any podcast. Okay, figuring out how to mainstream that process so that we can showcase our homegrown talent. On the 30th of March, I had a women empowerment group, and I showcased homegrown talent from here in the South Ward. You know, I brought other women that are CEOs and bosses and masteries within their own realm. We have the talent here. How do we push that forward, right? You know, for me, I feel like I don't want to say riches, but from rags to riches, I was someone who was homeless in the past. And that's how I ended up here in the South Ward. And thanks to Catholic Charities for helping me get back on my feet, and by purchasing my first multifamily home and turning that into a business for myself, and, you know, learning what that process was. I learned that on my own, but I want to send the elevator back down and show other people how to go about that, and you know, figure out how can we fill up these corridors with the people from right here in the South Ward. And, you know, like a Black Wall Street, keep the money right here in the South Ward. The South Ward is historic, and it's known for being a residential area. We don't have any schools. This is a rich residential area. And I heard someone say at a previous forum that every house is worth $200,000. That is not true. A 2-family house right now is going for $550,000 starting. Every 2 houses is over $1 million. We have a lot of money here. We have a lot of homegrown talent here. And what I want to focus on is really pushing them to understand that it's possible, and to get their businesses in these corridors, and to figure out how to mainstream that process with City Hall, because I know that it's not easy. I've heard horror stories about getting business licenses and then getting a receipt, and code enforcement shows up and shuts them down because the receipt is not the actual business certificate. So now they have to shut down. And these are our people here trying to feed their families. So.
And Zai, do you have a follow-up question?
Can you hear me?
We hear you
I
fine.
can't hear you.
We hear you fine. You were rolling. You were fine.
I don't hear you.
We actually hear you perfectly right now.
1 second. Give me 1 second. Let me log out and log back in. I don't know if the phone call. I know we only have a few more minutes. Two seconds.
That's fine.
2 seconds. Okay, hold on.
We're making those adjustments. So Zaid, you're talking about, again, the South Ward of Newark, and give us some more history about the South Ward and what its role in Newark is, right? Like many of our politicians come from the South Ward. I believe it's the most populous ward.
And it's a ward at the crossroads. And as y'all hear me say that a lot about this particular climate and whatnot. She's back. Let's come back to her.
Let's go back. So we are 7-2. All right, so we're still good. So we're going to be on her feet. She's out again. All right, so you were saying
South Ward is at a crossroads. It's about, for all of its history.
Hold on 1 second. Let's make sure that we're good. Are we good?
Dana?
Okay. Yes, right. I'm so sorry about that. Oh.
No need to apologize. No need to apologize. All right, so where you were talking about economic development. You were talking about specifically what you were doing. Like, you were homeless, and then a business was created for you.
Yeah.
What you are going into your vision of what needs to be done in terms of red tape.
You said what? You say? Are you saying what about what?
That's where you were when you started having
City Hall.
Oh, so I was just. All right. So I was just saying, it's just time to send the elevator back down. Right. And really, when I'm out there canvassing and I'm having these conversations with residents, the lack of knowledge right now and lack of education in regards to how to go about things, very simple things, it's just not out there. And so a large part of what I would like to do is, make that visible. Right. Figure out how we can allocate funding to create programming and curriculums for residents here in the South Ward, in Newark in general. It doesn't have to be just the South Ward. I am running for the South because I live here and all of my community endeavors are here. I'm not a teacher by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that if it comes from someone like myself, someone who comes from very humble beginnings, that I'm being received from the community right now very differently because they understand that, where I'm coming from, and they understand. Really like I said, showcasing and showing people here to teach and speak a language that our community understands. We're in a metaverse time. Crypto and NFTs are something that's on the table. We need to start no offense, some of these kids, recreation is required, and that's something that I'm working on as well. But they want to understand how to best use that for themselves to grow and feed their families. So.
And just as a follow-up question, Lizy, do you have a follow-up question on economic development?
Yes, there's some stuff coming our way in the South Ward, particularly around transportation, path expansion, airport expansion, whatnot. What does that mean in terms of the question of economic growth coming from those entities, and at the same time balancing economic growth that can be relative to folks on the community side?
And we're going to ask your answer to be a little brief on only in that we are coming close on time as well.
Sure. Okay, no problem. So I think also is helping the residents understand their stakeholders here in the community, that their power, right? And understanding that, like I just said, in regards to properties and how much they cost, right? So that's going to bring revenue here to the South Fork, but that's also going to increase, right, the value of properties, and having people to understand that, okay, this is great, right? We have this here in our community, and so now the house that we bought for $400,000 is now worth $600,000, right? Understanding that I now have $200,000 in equity in my home, and what can I do with that to push me forward? I'm going to keep it super brief, but really understanding how that can directly impact, their homes, and as stakeholders, their power that they're going to have by having these new jobs, the new transportation coming here, and then also for those, who, and like I tell people all the time, if we don't get involved in politics, and I'm somebody who was never involved in politics before now, I'm guilty of it, but it was because of lack of representation, and I didn't understand how it affected the quality. How being involved affected my quality of life until it did. And so really helping them to understand to start getting involved now. Being new to politics, it doesn't matter if you are new. If you have a stance, being new does not make you not qualified. And so you don't have to be in politics to start change. And I learned that. And so, start joining the movement, start having conversations, start talking to your neighbors. You never know what's out there. Like I'm building a farm on South 18th Street, and people don't even know that that's our community garden. And so that's what I have for that.
All right. Well, thank you. But we do have one more very, very brief question.
Okay.
And that is, who's your favorite hip hop artist, individual, group, or you could say, like, what best hip hop song or artist best represents your campaign?
All right. So I don't have a hip hop song, but I do have a song, and it's called Rise Up by Andra Day. And I feel like it really best describes, me. I feel like a flower that grew out of concrete, because I shouldn't have been here. And
that's hip hop. That's Tupac Shakur.
Okay. Don't quote me.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So people get on me all the time because there's some things I should know, but I'm Dominican and Puerto Rican. So, so Rise Up, I think best describes. And I love the fact that everyone who's a part of my campaign has probably never been involved in politics and have now taken a new interest. And that's what I hope to do. Is we have a generation that's woke, and I want to inspire them to aspire more for themselves and the community. And so as the underdog in this entire race, I take that title with pride. And so, I'm not going anywhere, win, lose, or draw. I'm still going to be here doing what I have been doing for the last 3 years, and that's improving the quality of life here, and being the representation that we need in politics now.
Thank you so much for being on the show, and good luck with the campaign.
Absolutely.
All right, bye-bye.
Good luck
Thanks.
to you. Mm-hmm.
All right, so we are getting ready to go to the next our next candidate, and we are going to go to Douglas Freeman right at the end of this. But because to give him some
minute back,
from the technical difficulty. Mm-hmm. But we have Cynthia Truitt Rease on right now, and running for the South to be the council person for the South Ward. So welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for welcoming.
And we'll just jump right into it. And we are asking you about your biography. So what is there about your biography that makes you most qualified to be the council person from the South Ward?
Okay, thank you for that question. First, my name is Cynthia Truitt Rease. I am a lifelong resident of the city of Newark and the South Ward. I was educated through Newark Public School Systems in the South Ward, a graduate of Weequahic High School, Indian for Life. I'm a homeowner invested for over 25 years, plus a property owner in the South Ward. And also, I'm a part of many grassroots organizations within the South Ward. I am a first vice president of the South District Police Relations Council for over 25 years. And I'm also the first vice president for that organization. I'm a member of my block association and many other block associations that I'm affiliated with, as also tenant associations. I also served as the chief of staff for our current South Ward councilman from 2014 to 2018. So I ran the day-to-day operations of the office. I trained the staff. I set his agenda. I set his calendar. I created his motions for every municipal council meeting, set up all his events, almost like a personal assistant to him. And I also sat in on many committee meetings that he was unable to attend. I know the value of community service. I started at a young age, watching my mom as a PTA president and even staying on after all her children left elementary school. She stayed on as an advisor for over 30 years to Broad Avenue School. So I've always been, she's also been almost like a 30-year district leader in the South Ward. And I also was a district leader for approximately five terms for District 41 in the South Ward. I've met with many block organizations, met and sat in on their meetings. So I received their concerns firsthand, and I was able to provide resources for whatever their issues were. When they called with the issues, I was able to direct them to the proper area of the office department that needed. And we also provided follow-up, which is greatly important to people when they call. And by the time they call the office, they're frustrated, they're aggravated, they want answers. So I was able to provide them with the answers and where it needed to be directed to. So I have a vast experience of the day-to-day operations and being able to maneuver within City Hall to get results done.
Thank you so much. We're going to go into our next question, and the next question really deals with crime in the South Ward. There's been always issues of policing. People are questioning maybe there might be over-policing. What is your vision of both what the South Ward's like, what does it look like in terms of crime now, and what specific policies would you advocate for? What specific policies would you advocate for?
Specific policies that I would advocate for is more community policing. We as a community have to be the first partakers. We already know that our police force is limited in resources and manpower. So we have to be the first line of defense. We have to learn to see something, say something. We can no longer sit back and keep a blind eye and close a deaf ear to what's going on in the streets. In order for you to know what's going on in your streets, as a council person, you have to drive your streets. You cannot just sit in one area and just know what's going on in that area. The South Ward is huge. So you have different issues within the ward that something may apply to one area, may not apply to another area. So you're going to have to be able to know how to channel that energy into what resources need to go where. As being on the police council for over 25 years, I've worked with each captain that came into the ward on different issues. whether I called them directly or issued their phone number out for contacts. I requested additional police presence in different areas when I know the crime was high, and just to show visibility within the community. And that's what one policy I would really want. I would want to see more police driving through communities and maybe getting out walking and meeting the block. And yes, we do have community officers, but it's not enough. It's not enough for us to combat the crime that we really need. We need more resources. We need more boots on the ground, and we need more of our residents to get involved.
And Zaid, do you have any follow-up questions to ask on the community, on the public safety issue?
I'm gonna come at it this way. Cynthia, you're raising an experience from within, having been within City Hall, right? That most folks don't have, right? How would you build on or improve upon working from a space like City Hall, making it accessible the way folks say they want it to be accessible, right? To make people heard, and what would you build on in terms of what's going on in the ward now around public safety? And there are some community-based strategies that are afoot in the South Ward, and some say that they need more support too. I've referred, the street team, places like that, entities like that. How would you leverage your in-house experience with your community experience to make those things move more?
Well, one thing I would do is that I believe you're talking about the Newark street team.
Street team and some others, but street team is probably the best known. Yes.
Right. I would really try to get them to have their meetings not just in one location, but to move them around the South Ward, because I think their meetings are held during the day, and most of our homeowners are at work, so they miss the meeting. So we need to have some type of evening meeting so people can get involved and know firsthand and lend that arm to come through the blocks, introduce yourself, come to some of the block meetings and find out directly from the residents what are their concerns, what are their needs, what are they looking for, because it's only going to come from a cluster. So in order to get that organization or get people more involved, they have to feel welcomed. You have to give the persona of this is a collective effort. We a family. We have to bring the village back that we once had. And that's where it starts. Knowing your neighbors, getting to know one another. Like I said, see something, say something. And one thing I did do while I was in City Hall is that I kept an open door and an open phone policy. So if a constituent had an issue going on a block and they were not comfortable calling the police, I let them know, you can contact this office. We'll make the phone call for you. We'll call the police. We'll be the liaison. They'll never know it came from you. And we would give the police the information that was relayed to us. And we'll also be the person that follow up with the police on what was the status, what happened, and we could relay that back to the resident. They were very, very, very pleased with that. Because they didn't feel in harm's way, and they felt they had a trusting ear that would listen to them, and somebody could still protect them without them being put on the or having to disclose the information. Because we have some people out here where they're scared to talk to the police. They're scared of the backlash. So I took that fear away from them. By being the person to make the calls for them.
Okay, and the next question that we have deals with economic development. What is your vision of where the South Ward is in terms of economic development and what it needs?
I see the South Ward slowly coming back, but there's still a lot of work that has to be done. I go back to when I was younger, and if anybody is familiar with Bergen Street, it was a thriving street. You didn't have to go too many places other than Bergen Street to get what you wanted, whatever you needed. Um, and that's what we have to bring back. Now we know there's a lot of online ordering and things of that nature, but we need to have stores or businesses that have to have communication. You have to have one-on-one contact with somebody. We need dry cleaners, we need a florist, things of that nature where you have to be in contact, and we don't have it. Now a lot of people have cars, so that's why they run out to 22. They go to the big box stores, Walmart, Costco's, BJ's, whatever. So, and they go to the mall. We need to bring some of those stores, or try to create that type of atmosphere to bring some of those little bistros and those stores back into the South Ward, into Bergen Street, and make it. Um, there's no reason why Bergen Street can't look like Fullerton Avenue in Montclair. There's no reason. We need spas. We need gyms. Um, we need a vet. We need we need a doggy daycare because everybody has dogs now. We need a groomer. Businesses that can thrive. And where you have people oriented customer service skills that have to come into play. We need a UPS store or a FedEx store on Bergen Street. We're right around the corner from one of the biggest hospitals in the state. So we need these type of resources to come into the community, so we don't always have to go out and spend our money outside of the South Ward.
What policies would you advocate that would be able to bring about that vision? Is there specific policies that you would advocate for?
Well, I know the city has a lot of incentives for small businesses, but we have to push more for that small businesses and entrepreneurship. Um, the South Ward was built on entrepreneurs. It was built on mom and pop stores. It was built on you knowing the neighborhood cleaners, Mr. King. He lived up the street. We have to start getting back into owner occupied and owner investors that are from here, that live here, and that are going to invest here. And that's where it has to come back to. We really do. We can't constantly take our money and spend it outside. We have to get those same businesses that we spend outside. We have to bring those inside. So we have to look for some federal funding. We have to look at these abandoned properties that these owners own that refuse to renovate or make it rentable properties. There has to be something done on the administration portion, and work collectively with the council office to do something. You have a slew of stores on Bergen Street that can be rented if it was habitable, but they're really not habitable because we have owners that's holding on to the property, and every year they're taking a tax break. They're getting a tax. They're taking it as a loss on their taxes. So until we can somehow take hold of that property, and then we can manifest and we can build something, it's going to be blighted. But we have to come forward, and these are conversations that need to be discussed on what are we going to do with these owners that have these properties that are not trying to develop them and not trying to bring resources or into the South Ward.
And we have time for our last question. And our last question is a light one. We're asking, who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual, or group, or what hip hop song best represents your campaign?
Oh boy, why are you trying to make me age myself? I was a Run DMC fan. I love Biggie. um I love Jay-Z. And I also love Queen Latifah.
Okay. Well,
So we got some Newark in there, right?
We've got something, and that's great. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on All Politics Are Local, and good luck.
Yes.
Thank you so much, and you all have a good evening and a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are actually going to bring Douglas Freeman on for his last 2 minutes. He's having technical difficulties, but I see him in the backstage now. So Douglas Freeman, welcome back.
Hey, welcome back. I know we had some technical difficulties.
Yes, and you were in the middle of talking. We're going to give you another 2 minutes because we know that you were cut off. So you were in the middle of talking about economic development, and of course, then we have a last question to ask. So if you could finish your thoughts on that in terms of what that finishing off your vision for that, and then get ready for that last question.
The economic development is going to have to include business training classes. It's going to have to include being able to understand what it is to be a homeowner, how to keep up with your properties, what to do once someone passes away. Because I know a senior who lost a house for $100, just because she didn't know the process and then, was ashamed to speak to someone. These are the things that we definitely need to understand of how to deal with the banks and how to deal with lenders. And these types of things we're going to start doing now. We're bringing in accounting firms that's right here in Newark, right on Bergen Street in the South Ward. Already talked to Combs. He said he'll start putting together some classes so that we can educate ourselves. We got to also understand too, when we talk about the economic development, we rarely talk about how to purchase the bonds just to our city, right? When we look at how to deal with the stock market, we don't have not one investment bank right here in the South Ward, right? We only have 2 banks now in the South Ward. One is under development, and that's the Industrial Bank, and then we have Wells Fargo, which is already being said that plenty of people don't even want to operate with them, right? So the business part is one. The airport village, when I talk about Aerotropolis, these are ideals. And, it has increased. We have already seen the value of the increase of building an airport village, because we, have sat down with plenty of meetings with the Port Authority, with Newark Housing. And I'm glad I heard someone's mentioned about the value of the homes going up. I'm clapping my hands because why? When we started back in 2012, that's when the mayor was Southport Council, and we all came together as far as community based with the mayor. When he was Southport Council, the houses was going for like $60,000 to $150,000. So when now they bragging about $600,000 homes, I'm glad, because what our redevelopment plan actually improved just by improving Weekway Park when the golf course was about to be sold, and it was going to turn into a private neighborhood.
We are out of time, though. I do have to. But there is a last question I want to ask you for everyone else, and that is the light question of who's your favorite hip hop artist, individual, or group, or what song or artist best represents your campaign?
All right, that would be Dougie Fresh, the show. That's where it's at. It's the show. All right, and one thing, Pastor Mike, we ready to go. Right, we already doing the work now. The next one would be Jay-Z, right? And that's something else that we have to always listen to his music, how he was able to take a little bit of nothing and turn it into industry, right? He cut deals and never changed his atmosphere of how he never changed himself, right? We have a tendency to code switch for people that don't like us, and I'll leave you with this though: would you train another community to compete against yours? And if your answer is no, then stop having consultants come here from their neighborhood and benefit off of us. Vote for Doug Freeman on May the 10th, C6. Already doing the work. Your house is already improved. Your neighborhood is improving. This is what it's about. You could go to the freeholder meetings with me and Ed Wadu sat there for 5-6 years every day. Every day they had a meeting. C6 is the person you should be voting for. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate you, and good luck.
Okay.
All right, so we went through 5 of the 6 candidates. The last candidate we're going to have on at 8 when we're talking about and that will be and that is Trenton Jones. So we're going to have all 6 council people on today. But we actually we ran very late, and we bled into our next segment, which is the vote, and we have a really great segment on that. We are going to be joined by Reverend Conrad Tillard, who is here with us. We also have, in addition to Conrad Tillard, we are going to be talking about an important issue with Rick Robinson of the Newark NAACP and a family member of Major Julie Dale, who was killed by the police in Newton, New Jersey. And actually, Zaid, you're going to introduce this next segment, and you're going to introduce our guest.
Okay, well, look like Conrad is trying to get on. Is he able to get on?
He's not. He's having some technical difficulties. That's why we can't see him, or he would be able to.
Okay. Well, this is Rick is there. Okay. Valerie said she was on. Let's see her.
All right. So, Rick Robinson, I think there's a lot of noise and stuff going on in your background.
There you go. Yeah, he all right. Okay. And there's Valerie. Okay. All right. There we go.
All right. So Zaid, you can give the introduction to this particular segment, and
Rick,
we'll go from there.
Rick, I gotta ask you a difficult question for our audience. What happened on July 4th, 2021 in Newton, New Jersey, that we should all be concerned about?
The American.
There you go.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I think the American people. Oh, I got some music. Uh-oh.
And so I think that either there's music in your background or there's music on your computer.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. All right. So I think the American people
there's
need
actually still music going on in your background, though. So if there's music on in your computer, you might want to turn off that music on your computer.
All right. I'll let Val go first, and then I'll follow up because I got to move my location. So please excuse me.
Okay.
And I wanted to do. I was going to do it this way so Rick could explain what happened, and then he could bring you in, Val. But since he's got his technical issues, tell us about what happened on the 4th of July.
Hi, good evening. I'm Valerie Dale, sister of Gulia Dale, Major Gulia Dale III. On 4th of July at 9:30, exactly around the time of the finale, my brother was having a PTSD episode where the fireworks played a tremendous part in him struggling with PTSD. His wife called 911, hoping and thinking that the cops would help, but because he did not look like them, that was not the case. They came while he was in his car, and they ordered him to get out of the car instead of asking his wife, is everything okay? We know you call for help, for 911. Who needs help? Or even asking him while he was sitting in his car. And within 12 seconds, 7 shots rang and entered my brother's body and killing him that night on 4th of July of last year, less than 8 months ago.
And I know that's still very fresh and very raw for you. But I wanted to go right into just who your brother was. See, I was trying to have Rick lay out what happened and come to you about the humanity of your brother. Let's talk about now. You folks can see in the background. You have that's the picture of your brother.
I do think Rick is back, actually.
Okay.
Rick,
tell us.
Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Hey guys.
Okay, that's better. That is better.
Yeah.
Right? Valerie is getting ready to tell us about her brother. And I'm going to let her do that, right? And then I'll let you talk. I'll let you explain more about what went wrong with what happened to him. So Valerie, go ahead. As I was asking you, tell us about who your brother was, and why that really made for a bad scene even more horrible.
Okay, so first and foremost, my brother, he's a father, a Black father, and being that he served his country for over 30, 40 years, and even fighting in wars for this country, and receiving
Major Gulia Dale.
Yes, he went up the ranks. So he retired as a major and receiving numerous decorations and badges for serving the country. Even his last job was working at the Pentagon of the United States for Joint Chief of Staff as an EO specialist, where he helped individuals deal with inequality and everything within that, the department and everything. So he had 3 daughters and he was married, and the cops didn't see him like them. And because he was of different color, they chose to, instead of getting him help, they chose to put 7 shots in his body. And, he lived in Newton for over 28 years. So the cops that came were fresh cops on the beat that night. And it's just unfortunate, because 6 months prior there was a veteran that lived in the same town, white veteran named Edwin Green. They spared his life. He actually shot at them 7 times.
Well, let me stop you there. Let me spare you that, right? And I'm gonna let Rick develop that, right? And I'll spare you because I don't want to take you through the pain of having to go through describing that over and over again. Rick, how did this call go down, and how is it that a decorated soldier gets killed on the 4th of July when just a few months prior, as Valerie alluded to, a white vet has a very different circumstance? We're starting to get feedback from you again.
Yeah, so it's a car running by, so please excuse that. The car is getting ready to cross the light in a little while. But first, let me give kudos to Valerie Colbert. She took the lead with the family and was the leader in terms of this. This is not an easy situation. All right. If anybody have lost anybody and you actually are the family leader, it's a lot of responsibility. So let's give Valerie a hand with that, and let us acknowledge that situation regarding her leadership for the family. So the car is going by now. This is the situation, and it's very, very clear. All right. So first, let me tell you that I serve the Newark NAACP branch as a co-chair for criminal justice. Now, with my experience over the last 10 years, I was appointed to the New Jersey State Conference NAACP as the chairman for criminal justice. So my work with the NAACP has been somewhat significant. We went to actually embrace this situation because you know why? This is wrong. What they did to retired Major Gulia Dale is a crime. And it should be people adhering to some type of repercussions regarding what had happened. We are still investigating the situation. We are still pushing for civilian complaint review boards to be all over the state. And I'm going to tell you something. This is not the first time a Black man has been shot and killed in this state. 2 years, for 2 years, there's been over 4 or 5 Black men that have been shot and killed by law enforcement. Last year, just recently, the New Jersey State Supreme Court had a 1 vote in our favor to actually pass something that Raz Baraka has been trying to pass for years, which is the Civilian Complaint Review Board. In my mind, that is unconstitutional and unfair. Now I know we have, yesterday we just got a Supreme Court justice for the United States Supreme Court. That's great. And just I think a couple of months ago we got a jurist for the New Jersey Supreme Court, a young lady, a black lady. But that does not answer to the fact that for years, and this is really troubling, nothing has been done regarding black men being killed by New Jersey law enforcement. Very, very problematic. This is something that our leaders that we elect should be actually at the table discussing, whether it's at municipal level, whether it's at the county level, whether it's at the state level. This is something that needs to be addressed and needs to be rectified. And I think if we actually put our foot and our efforts regarding criminal justice reforms, we will have a better state in the state of New Jersey.
Let's come back to Gulia's case, though. That's a particular case, particular community, right? A particular set of facts. How can we take that apart? And what does that case teach us about what needs to be done?
What it tells you simply is this: a black man is not valued. This man served our nation in so many different capacities, in a positive favor capacity. I'm not talking about somebody who actually did this and did that. No, this man actually worked at the Pentagon. So if we don't value somebody that actually put their efforts in representing this country in our military services for over 40 years, and he's black, then you're not going to value anybody who's black. That is a distinct problem for me and for the NAACP. So we need our elected leaders to actually get involved with some of the wrongness that had been going on in this state. Now, I know that this has been a situation where individuals are elected, newly elected, and all this other stuff. But you got to understand something. If you know the history about New Jersey, regarding black men being killed by law enforcement, this is not a new phenomenon. Not the least. I myself was a college sophomore, going to college out of the city of Newark with no money, trying to make money to bring home to my mother and my father, and I was actually for a whole entire year, was traumatized by the police because I lived off campus and because I was black. They tried to run me out of a town where it would have affected my actual studies. It would have affected me as a person. And they didn't care where I was from or what I was trying to do. I was a college student. In fact, I was a college athlete. Did not care. Here we have a situation in Newton. This is a decorated young black man who was a father, who was a husband, who was a brother, who actually took care of his whole entire family. And they did not even give this young man a chance. They actually pumped bullets in him, as opposed to 6 months prior.
That's what I want you to get
where
at.
somebody shot at them. A white man shot at them. He was shooting at the police.
They
did not do anything.
Take a step back. I want you to build on that. I want you to explain the difference as to how those two cases with similar factual backgrounds, two vets in mental health crisis, how did they play out so differently?
Let's take the first one that happened 6 months before retired Major Gulia Dale. This gentleman, I think his last name is Green. He had a mental breakdown. He was a former police officer. He was a retired military person. He shot at the police twice, 3 times, 4 times. Nothing was actually done to this gentleman. In fact, he was arrested. So you took all this time to arrest this person. You call all these different resources for this person. All right. Now, let's go 6 months down the line. We have a black young man, as I mentioned earlier, who was highly decorated, had a mental situation where all he needed was time and all he needed was compassion. What they did was they visualized a black man in a car, a vehicle, indicated that, okay, you know what? Black in a car, in a vehicle, I see a weapon maybe, I'm going to shoot him. No compassion whatsoever. He never even shot at the police, which is so sad. He never shot at the police. But they shot him in less than 3 minutes. As opposed to the person 6 months ago, Mr. Green, they actually gave all the different resources. They had county resources, state resources, municipal resources. Nothing was actually left undone to actually help this man. But they did not do this for retired General Gulia Dale. Extremely troubling. And I'm really glad that the NAACP is part of this psychiatric task force, that we're actually trying to engage with discussions with the attorney generals, because there's something needs to be done in regards to how you actually engage with the mental illness population.
Let me stop you there. Because I want you to build on one point, and I want to bring Valerie back into the conversation. Right?
Sure.
There's a task force. There's a psychiatric task. Well, tell us about that task force you were just mentioning.
All right. So what I'm going to do is actually email you both all the information regarding this task force. We actually see Miss Cobra is actually on the task force because her brother is the actual inspiration for us building that task force. So the Attorney General's office, they just actually have somebody that they're going to confirm because they had an acting person. And we were engaged in conversations with him and his team. That'll be Andrew Bruck. But now we're looking at a situation where we probably had to engage in conversations with Matthew Plankin. But I got to tell you something. When you have the actual Black community for psychiatric, I would say, professionals that want to actually look at how can we actually bring together or work together with the state in terms of making them understand that you cannot actually ascertain and engage with people the same way when you're dealing with mental illness or a regular perp. So we're trying to actually open up that avenue. And I got to tell you, Valerie Cobra has been instrumental in that. We have a leader in Dr. Johnson, who is a very renowned person in this discipline. But it still has to, this is what has to be done. In my opinion, and this is the NAACP's thoughts, you have to have a civilian complaint review board to look at situations so you can hold people accountable. The mayor of Newark, Raz Baraka, has been absolutely on point. And along with different legislatures throughout the state, especially Assemblywoman McKnight, you have to give some type of notion and give some kind of credit to this situation regarding embracing this for the fairness of humanity, not just Black people, humanity. That is what needs to be done. And we're going to actually fight for everything regarding that discipline. The CCRB, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, is the most understandable, comprehensive measure to hold people accountable. And this is what we need in this state of New Jersey.
Right on. Valerie, I want to bring you back in. Right. April 30th is your brother's birthday.
Right.
Your family's first birthday of your brother without your brother's presence. And you're seeking to try and do something in Newton to honor your brother's presence. Why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, so on Saturday, April 30th, I'm going to have celebration of life and a rally in honor of my brother at the Newton Green in Newton, New Jersey. It's going to be at 12 o'clock. And, you know, we want support from all organizations, all the community members. I have some community members that are willing to come out and speak, because just being up there is kind of hard for them to even speak about stuff like this.
To tell everybody why it's so hard. What is it about Newton that makes it so hard? Newton is not Newark, but for the benefit of folks who don't know, where Newton is and what that community is about.
Yeah, well, the residents that I've spoken to, if they even try to help out, even since the George Floyd situation, they try to have rallies and have Black Lives Matter up there supporting. And now my brother's situation, they don't want to be involved with most of, the police and the situations that they're doing up there, because they get shunned upon. And I know one resident, they literally ran her out of the town. Literally. And you're going to hear it when me and my cousin is done with the documentary that we're doing in honor of my brother. So I'm working on a documentary for this whole situation.
Tell everybody about the documentary. That's quite a feat.
Well, it's still in the making. I just want to bring light to what happened to my brother, because this actually should not have happened. Those officers had no intention on getting any kind of mental health aid to my brother. And being that he was Black in a majority white town, which he actually lived there probably longer than some of those residents there, and the cops that shot him. Garrett Armstrong was only on there 6 months, and Stephen Idle less than a year. My brother's been there, raised kids there for 28 years. Why can't we live where we want to? Why couldn't my brother live there? Why couldn't he get the aid that he needed? But we're trying to do a documentary just to bring out the whole situation and the whole eeriness of that whole town.
Now, a couple things I want you to lift up. One is that your brother is actually from our area, right, in Essex County, Orange, Orange roots, Montclair roots, Montclair, right? And been in Newton long enough to raise some of his children there. And I got involved because I got called to a gathering that was done, a healing circle that was done. It was beautiful event that was done at Newton Green, right in the center of town. And although that was a good gesture and then done by some local folks, what do we say about that town? Did that reflect the character of Newton, or is Newton is for everybody's benefit? Newton is in Sussex County. It's a majority white town with a conservative orientation. I was very impressed by what I saw what those young folks did on that day for your brother and for the community. It was a broader healing expression for the community. But what has been the broader? How is the community beyond those folks who did what they did for your family on that day? Is the community? How did the community respond to what happened to your brother?
It seems like everybody's just trying to keep it quiet and just pretend like nothing happened. Like right now, we do know that it is a homicide. So we know that it is going to go before the grand jury, but it's a long process, being, that the pandemic is here as well. But I don't even know now, are those officers out on the street working? I don't know. I need to know. I want to know, because they don't need to be there working out on the street. They need to be fired for what they did.
I have a.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John. Come on in. Mm-hmm.
You have a question for Rick Robinson, and that question is really about. It seems like the police actually did have procedures in order to deal with mental illness, right? And it seems like they didn't follow those procedures pretty egregiously. is there pressure? Like, what does it look like in terms of the NAACP? Are there other organizations there that are at least going to attempt to try to hold the police accountable for following their own policies? Is this something that, in your perspective, is it something that the police are going to just claim, oh, we did everything we're supposed to do? It, like, what does it look like in terms of what they were supposed to do and what happened?
You're muted, Rick. There you go. Come on.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Jonathan, let me tell you this. It certainly looks like they did not follow protocol, because the executive order went out in 2020 by the former Attorney General Braywall. All right. And I contacted the Sussex County Prosecutor's Office, and I spoke with certain members. They are still trying to ascertain what they should be trying to do. Now, I have no problem giving this information over to CNN, NBC, or anybody else, because this is exactly what I was told. But in forms of accountability, we got to work on that, because you know what? We're still trying to build a situation where people will be held accountable. And they're going to be held accountable because of this executive order. All right. Now, when I actually spoke with the police department in Newton, they indicated that there's an investigation going on. That's fine. That's fine. But for you not to embrace the family, not even contact the family, not even participate in any of the actual events that took place to honor this gentleman who served in this nation for over 40 years, is despicable in my book. All right. I have law enforcement family. I have people in my family who are in corrections. I understand the situation regarding law enforcement. I have family members who served in the armed forces. And believe me, they are honored. But this is a gentleman that should be given the highest, and I mean the highest priority regarding trying to find out what exactly happened, why it happened, and how can we rectify it. And we have not yet heard from the Attorney General's office, because, all right, given the fact that former General Braywall, he actually resigned and went to the SEC to deal with securities. He left. We had somebody else, as I mentioned earlier, who was the acting, Andrew Buck. Now we may have somebody else named Ian Plotkin, who actually used to be a right-hand man for Governor Murphy. But what still bothers me is that municipal, the mayor, assembly people, senate people in that particular area did not embrace anything. And this is problematic to me. This is exactly why you need a civilian complaint review board. This is exactly why you need to have people held accountable. This is exactly why you need justice for not just Black people, Black men, but you need justice for everybody to have a stable situation regarding humanity. As I said earlier, the mayor of Newark, Raz Baraka, was right. The city council in Newark, the municipal council, voted unanimously to have the CCRB, the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Our government in the state and our legislature, they should actually embrace those thoughts from the mayor of Newark and the municipal council. They should embrace that in order to have a more harmonious, stable situation in the state of New Jersey.
Valerie, how are young people responding in Newton?
The ones that I've talked to, they want to see justice happen. They know this is wrong. They're trying to show attention to the family, but it's hard because of just that whole area. I had a few people to come down to the MLK March from up there. They've been up there for 20 years, and You know, they want to see changes made. They know things that's wrong, how they are treated, you know, in the sense of police profiling against Black people up there. Is they want things to change. The young ones that I've talked to, and it's not just the Black ones, it's the white ones up there too that are friends with the Black residents up there.
That brings me back to what you're planning for your brother's birthday, because I know
that we also, I know that it's 7:59, and but I know that you're getting ready to wrap up in terms of what we're doing. I know we're going to have to revisit, but Zaid.
Okay, yeah. This is my last question to you, and just to build on the last one, I know you got young people involved in the shaping of the event that you're putting together, and in the event that we all were at together a few months ago. Why don't you tell us about that? And at the end, you tell everybody, you know, when, where, and so folks can come out and support you.
Okay, the last vigil that I had there in Newton Hill Coalition, which was created by some of the residents that's up there, and a few of them are young and they're mixed race. They actually came out and helped out with the vigil, and they're going to be there on April 30th as well. And we're going to have a celebration of life for my brother, because I don't want my brother's life to just be thrown away. You know, he was a courageous man. He was a strong person, and he cared about everybody. You know, just his job alone, his last job alone, working as the EEO officer. You know, that they actually help all diversity of people. You know, but he couldn't get any help from another race. So we're going to have a celebration on Newton Saturday, April 30th at 12 o'clock on the Newton Green. It's the Route 206 and 94 on Spring Street.
And Newton Green is right in the center of town. So folks, Rick, any last remarks you want to say before we wrap up?
Listen, I just want to actually thank you for this platform, and I think that you know, the sister Valerie Colbert has been an instrumental part in turn to helping our family. The Newark NAACP is very proud to actually take part of this, as well as the New Jersey State Conference NAACP. So we look forward to supporting this matter. I'll forward you all the information regarding the Black psychologists who are involved with meeting with the Attorney General. And believe me, this is not over. We're going to fight for what we think is right. And again, I want to thank you for this platform.
We thank you. Thank you. We're glad to have you, and we're going to have you back to talk about all these issues, because you're right, that they are ongoing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Peace.
All right. So we have going to this. We always have to end these conversations always too soon, right? But we're going to definitely have both of them back on, because you know this is just important, and we need to always have a deeper understanding of what needs to be done. So we have with us right now. We're going back to the all politics are local. I'm trying to get back into focus the last interview, because the last interview was pretty heavy, right? Like there was a lot, you know, and getting to focus on you right now. We interviewed 5 of the 6 council people who are running for the council for the South Ward of Newark, New Jersey. We have the 6th person on with us right now. We have Trenton Jones Trenton Jones, who is running. And so welcome to All Politics Are Local.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me on this platform here tonight on such short notice. I'm just happy that I could be here today to have this conversation with you all.
We're glad you could be here. We're glad we could be here. We're just going to jump in with that first question, which is, what about your biography? What in your biography makes you the best candidate for South Ward councilman?
Well, My name is Trenton Jones. I'm the former legislative aide to Councilman John James and Eddie Osborne for the great city of Newark, New Jersey. I'm the founder of Love Newark First, the 501c3 nonprofit geared towards helping families. I'm also the founder of Love Your Community Day, an event that we have every year here in the South Ward, helping families in need. Also, during the pandemic, we raised over $10,000 giving out PPE equipment to the residents in our community. We teamed up with City Rub Steakhouse and fed more than 5,000 Newark residents. RLS Media did an article on my organization where we fed 500 South Ward families Wendy's meals. But outside of that, I'm a father of 5 beautiful children. I'm a Newark native, born and raised here, went to Newark Public Schools. Bergen Street, which is now was called William H. Brown Academy, Malcolm X Shabazz. And like I said previously, I worked under two current council members for over 6.5 years. One was John James, where I served under him for about 1.5 years. And Councilman Eddie Osborne, I served under him for more than 4.5 years. I believe that I have the most experience out of all the candidates, and I know what it takes to be a leader. I've attended more than 2,000 community meetings in my position as the senior aide. I also managed and ran the office for Councilman Osborne. I've been to hundreds of council meetings, and I know what it takes to sit at the table and broker some deals. And that's basically who I am and why I'm running, and that's why I feel as though I have more experience than the rest of the candidates.
When we talked about one of the main issues that always comes up when you ask people about what concerns them in the South Ward, and it's often crime. There's always a tension between not wanting to be over-policed and needing the police. What is your vision of what crime looks like in the South Ward, and what policies are you going to advocate for?
So I believe that, so let me just start off with this, with crime. I was once a victim of a violent crime in our city, standing at a phone booth outside of a barbershop waiting to get a haircut. A young man walked up to me and asked me for my belongings. I gave him everything, but I hesitated on giving him my phone. And he proceeded to shoot me 9 times, where I suffered multiple bullet wounds throughout my body. Still have the scars on my body. I still have a bullet in my stomach. I still have bullet fragments in my arm, and I still have a metal rod in my left knee. So as far as crime, I hear folks saying that crime is down, but I believe that there's still crime. When you still have folks stealing cars and killing people, when you still have people getting robbed and shot, when you still have people being raped, there's still a lot of crime. I believe that we shouldn't over-police our community, but I also believe that we have 300,000, more than 300,000 residents in the South Ward, and I think that 600 police officers cannot man this many people. I believe at the rate that we're going we currently have, for probably every 50 police officers coming in on the job, we have about 60 officers retiring. So we're not catching up to what we need to catch up with. And as far as one thing I do not believe in is defunding the police. I do believe that we need police officers in our community, because if we didn't, I think our city and other cities around the world would be in chaos. But I do believe that police officers, you know what? This is one thing I would want to do as a councilman to possibly hire more police officers. I am willing to get rid of one of my aide positions to hire one police officer, because a lot of folks don't know that the starting salary for an aide is $54,000. The next one is $65,000. The next one is $75,000. Chief of staff makes $85,000. So I'm willing to do away with one of those positions just to hire a police officer. So that's my angle and where I'm leaning towards. And this is not nothing that I'm just blowing up with fluff. This is something that I really want to do.
you. And Zaid, do you have a follow-up question when it comes to policing and public safety?
Trenton, I want to apologize for what you went through, right? And I'm a gun violence survivor also, so I definitely feel you on that one.
Thank
right?
you. Yeah.
How would you build on what you have seen and done with Councilman James and Councilman Osborne, and with the city administration for that matter, right? Because we've got some very interesting and very critically received community-based violence reduction strategies that are afoot in the community. How would you build on what we have going so far to be more of a difference maker on that front?
I believe what I would do is I would get out in the community and I would have these current officers, because they say that we have a community policing issue going on. And yes, I think we have made great strides over the years with that. But still in all, when you drive up to some corners, you have police officers that are actually not engaged with the residents, which you see them are sitting in their cars and on their cell phones, and who knows what they're doing. But I do believe that we have a lot of great police officers out there. My main focus would be possibly having these officers just trained on various issues, whether it be landlord-tenant issues, landlord-tenant issues, whether it's about people who have been victims of violent crimes. Let us have these coffee touches that we used to have, because I haven't been hearing that we've been doing them much lately. Let us engage more with the community as a whole. Let us mend the gap with the youth and the seniors. Let us bring everybody to the table, whether it's the seniors, the police officers, and have a core engagement of our community. And I think one of the other things that is really tearing our city apart is that you have a lot of business owners that aren't engaged with the community. They come in our communities, they make hundreds and millions of dollars, and then they just say the heck with us. And more so, a lot of crime is prevalent within those in certain corridors, especially in the South Ward. I just think that we have to just find some ways of getting some money to get some new police officers out there. I would literally walk the streets with some of these police officers so we can all engage with them. I believe that the current council members that I work for did not engage with the community enough, and I fault them as well. You cannot just have the mayor going out in the community and engaging with the community, and you're as an elected official as well, not doing the same thing. I hope that answered your question a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I want to move on to the question of economic development. And that question really is, given how you described the South Ward, even in terms of like your vision of it in terms of crime, what is your vision of the South Ward in terms of economic development? And what policy would you advocate for to push the ward in the direction that you think it should go in?
I want downtown to look like Halsey Street. I want the South Ward to look like Halsey Street. I want the South Ward to look like downtown. I think far in between, they forget about uptown and always focus on downtown. I think that we currently have an IZO, the inclusionary zoning, right? Where you have to, I think, build this 20 to 30% affordable units within a ward, right? So with those 20 to 30% units, the developer comes and says, okay, I want to build this property, but then the developer can say, you know what? I don't think that me putting these affordable units in this area is going to work right now. So what happens in that case, they then go and put the money into some form of an escrow the city then tells them that, okay, well, on the next property that you build, you have to build affordable units. And I think that the city is losing out on that part. Because what if the developer says at the end of the day, you know what, I don't want to build any more properties in the city of Newark. So it's a loss. And that money that goes into escrow can now be distributed to throughout the community. So now the South Ward has lost out. So I think now we need to mandate that, and we need to stick to our guns on this. 20 to 30% mixed use or affordable units, or you cannot get this property. So, and what is affordable? Affordable is not affordable anymore, because now you go and get a 1-bedroom apartment that was probably $900 6 years ago, 6 to 10 years ago. That's probably $2,200. Who can afford that? Not a person that's making $15 an hour, not a person that's making $20 an hour. The only way a person can sustain those apartments is if they bunk up with 2 or 3 family members. So I think we have to make some changes. I think they did try to make some changes to the IZO recently, but I just don't think it goes far enough with these developers that are coming in this city and just running amok on the people of our community.
And the specific policies that you were talking about would be, like, because you kind of started to describe it in terms of like making sure that developers,
making sure they stick to their guns on what they're supposed to do. If the IZO says, okay, I think it's 30 to 60 units, and you have to build 20 to 30% affordable units, but then they get to the drawing board and they say, well, you know what, I don't think that this is going to work. So then we give them a slap on the wrist and we say, okay, well, look, you don't have to do the affordable units on this property, but you have to make a promise and put this money into escrow. So what I'm saying to you is, no, that shouldn't be an option. If you want to work on the property, if you want to get a property where you don't have to have any affordable units, you have to first build those units, and then you can come to the drawing board on that second property and say, okay, well, look, I held up to my end of the bargain, so now let us go on and build these other units without the affordable, and then you can put those funds into escrow. But this has been going on. It got strengthened the other day, but I just think it doesn't go far enough. And I hope I answered it.
All right, we have less than 2 minutes left. Zaid, do you have a question or a clarification to ask on the economic development question?
How do you feel about the transportation that's looking to come to South Ward? What will that do? Boom or bust? How do we strike that balance between economic growth and the very thing you just talked about, the question of affordable housing?
But are we really going to get it? This is the thing. They've been talking about this for a lot of years now, and I haven't seen. I've been to some of the meetings down at the Weequahic Sports Authority, where they've had these discussions for years now, and they've been promising that it was going to go from, I think, from Hayes Avenue, from somewhere downtown, past Hayes Avenue up to the Dayton Street area. But from my understanding, from what I've been hearing, from what I've been seeing, it's not happening. Now they're talking about cutting it short up to Hayes Street. How does that benefit the residents that's down at Kretschmer Elderly or Evergreen Place? What are they gonna have to catch a shuttle bus down to this? I just think that we need to come to the drawing board. We need to really have a sit down with Port Authority, the city of Newark, and we need to just say, look, this is what the residents need. This is what we promised them, and this is what we need to stick to.
All right, and thank you. The last question, just very briefly, like
no more questions. No more questions.
Not just this.
No, I'm joking.
30-second question. 30-second question. All right, and that is that last question, light question. Who's your favorite hip hop group, individual, or who's your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group? Or you can say which hip hop artist or song best represents your campaign.
Today Was a Good Day by Ice Cube. Today Was a Good Day by Ice Cube.
All right, so we are out of time. That is a great selection of songs.
Yes.
So but thank you so much for coming on the show.
And I appreciate you guys for having me, and we'll talk soon. Thank you. God bless.
Definitely.
Peace.
Good luck.
All right, you too. Bye.
All right, that is another section of All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show, or political hip hop streaming talk show. So we have on right now. So our next guest.
Yeah, big up.
I'm all excited right now, right? Because she's brilliant. She's like, I learned I should just start taking notes from talking to her about the culture, about all. I'm an educator. She hit me to a new term in terms of hip hop educator. I didn't know it was like what it was, right? In terms of, oh man, I am so excited to have back with us again, the one, the only, the brilliant Purple Haze. Hey, Purple Haze.
Hey, peace. Listen, man, I gotta have that kind of intro when I go to bed and when I wake up. That's my meditation right there.
Fair enough, right? Like, but nah, it's deserved. It's real, right? Because last time you were on the show, we had this great conversation, and you were really like, you're really breaking stuff down. So I'm gonna just jump into it. I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna just throw it in and have you, throw it out, because it's gonna be a real basic question, but I know that you are going to, run with it. And so, in the spirit of DJ Rhino, what is the state of hip hop?
All right, beautiful question. Thank you for having me return about a month right here. So you are a manifester, and definitely shout out to my brother Rhino. So the state of hip hop. This is a beautiful week to return. We have what was announced this week. I want to start right there because of the last guest. As Trenton said, today is a good day. And that song by Ice Cube, right? So this week was an announcement. LL Cool J's Rock the Bells Festival with Ice Cube will be one of the artists performing. I have to say, the state of to quote Montel Jones, this is how you do it. The commercial announcement for Rock the Bells. I love that it's a combination of LL and Ice Cube demonstrating love for the culture, moving through the bodega. Omar Epps is in the joint. But these two also, or three, their evolution included acting, right? And what's really special about this Rock the Bells festival, it's not new, right? It's returning. The special thing that I think LL Cool J does when he demonstrates this beyond the commercial is he has this happening in Forest Hills, Queens, his hometown, not forgetting where he is from. And I looked up the venue and I said, yo, let me see, what's this venue? I didn't even know they had a stadium in Forest Hills, right? So I know there'll be several like me who's learning now about that location. And I looked at the list of artists that have been performing there, and it's not usually hip hop. So I want to shout out L for bringing that and bringing us together again in New York City for a beautiful festival hosted by Roxanne Shante, who is a host on Rock the Bell Radio and also from Queens, who lived in Newark for a good amount of time. And always shares love and lots of education. Has been a sister that's always imparted good love, vibe, information every time I see her. Roxanne Shante, one of my favorite quotes, she said, good people always see each other again. And I do. I see her at least 2 years randomly, not randomly, because I think everything is divine timing, with a good word, a good exchange, and lots of love. So shout out to LL for launching that. The lineup includes Jada Kiss, The Diplomats, Diggable Planets. I feel like I'm going to leave people out. Those are the ones I memorized, right? It's going to be so dope. There's a lot more. So really excited that LL is doing that at home. And I'm looking forward. I think the state of hip hop is that artists, as things are moving in the direction they're moving in, artists will be performing again. And some of the younger ones have been already. But I think now this hip hop is at a point where there's a combination of artists who may have not released music in a while, but their music has been so great, such a time capsule, and can last throughout time, that they can get on the road and get together and show the skills of the sign of the times. Nas has announced his tour as well. So I know Nas will be in North Carolina. And speaking of North Carolina, North Carolina is having a hip hop South festival, which
I
is
was going to say, just talking about Rock the Bells before we change the subject. I was trying to get it on my computer screen, and Chrome is always trying to conspire against you. Maybe it's Apple, right? Like they're like, oh, you can't share, you got to update. I was like, what? I want to update this. It's a commercial. We can actually play it. It's a commercial, right? They want us to play it, but they're not doing that right now. But you were talking about like just what it means in terms of the Rock the Bells festival coming back. What before you move on to the other concerts and the other stuff that's going on, what does Rock the Bells actually mean?
Rock the Bells. So this is interesting, right? Because you think of school bells and schoolhouse rocks, right? Or the 3 o'clock Rock the Bells. But this is a song that came out on LL's first joint. This is young LL Cool J. Amplify. Turn the frequency up. Make sound, make some noise, as we like to say in hip hop. Ring the alarm, signal, call attention, focus in, and pay attention. And then when that attention and that focus is on you, as LL did and always demonstrates, he self-identifies as the GOAT, the greatest of all times. Make it worthwhile. And I like to say, Rakim says, move the crowd. That I don't know, that rhyme came to me right there. But that's what he's talking about. That's my understanding of what he's talking about. And now I'm going to look it up, actually. I'm going to do some more. I'm going to read LL's book. He was one of the first to put out, I guess you could say, a memoir of such, or author his narrative. Over 10 years ago, LL put his book out. It was great, very transparent, very open about the journey, paying homage and taking responsibility and demonstrating choices. The book is called I Make My Own Rules. And he came to understand management and music and responsibility in his position and the opportunities way beyond what he was doing. So he started getting way more involved in his business. And his business is a family man. So he talks about restoring with his family, health and loss and grief, and then being empowered to communicate on his behalf. To, as he says, make his own rules. And he's been a game changer ever since. So shout out to the LL Cool J. And yes, I'm one of the ladies that has forever loved Cool J. Shout out to Queens Village in Jackson High School, his alma mater, and my mama's alma mater as well.
Ladies love Cool James.
Yes. Yeah. Now, what's also cool about this is Remy Ma and Fat Joe on the joint. And as I said in the commercial, right, and dope DJs as well. So on the commercial, he's rolling through the store and every item he's purchasing has somebody on the lineup's name, quoting maybe the show or an album or a phrase that they had, right? So it's definitely one of those real fun Clue, a game of Clue. If you don't realize what you're looking at, he's giving you a hint to who's coming through, right? And so I also looked at that, and my interpretation was branding and product, and where hip hop, the state of hip hop has evolved so much when it comes to negotiating with marketing, and when it comes truly to the entrepreneurship around creating items and brand and merchandise beyond your concert wear, right? And beyond those clothing. Shout out to Walker Wear, and shout out to Naughty by Nature, because the Naughty store on Halsey Street, to me, I'm fortunate that I got to be in Jersey at that time when I was there. But there are products now, right? Major products that go out to the masses that different hip hop artists are investors or creators of. And so I love that little piece of it. And then he even had like the old school bubble gum, some of the things we used to grab in the store as kids. It was a fun, nostalgic commercial, in my opinion. So what else is going on in the state of hip hop right now?
Yes, because I'm gonna try to get it. I was even outside of it shut down. My whole Chrome shut down. I just ran back and now I'm trying to get it back up again. It's just hilarious, right? Like we had our guests who are coming on from the city council. Many of them had tech difficulties. And yes, we're having tech difficulties right now. But move on to the next thing we're talking about. And then I want to get into a conversation with you about hip hop education, because we started off on that. And I think that really does have the power to be very liberatory. And what you were saying about it, right? Like, so you went deep and it was great. And I want to get you started talking about that as well. But you were saying the other things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So before I even bounce back down south, right? I'm going part of this feels real personal today. I'm realizing I started with the Rock the Bells. Now I'm gonna move. I'm gonna take the train up to Harlem and share that next weekend is the Lyricist Lounge 30th anniversary celebration. The Lyricist Lounge. Okay, this is the battleground for the illest, literally, as the title says, lyricists. This is not just about rhyming right here, right? This was also those who had the skill and gift of improvisational rap, freestyle, right? The art and skill of quick thinking. And we have some giants that were a part of that early on formation for this show. 30 years ago. I didn't realize that. And one of those great lyricists that's a Jersey native is our extremely talented, forever legendary Rod Digger. Rod Digger was one of the people on Lyricist Lounge and will be there at the 30th anniversary. I also want to shout out one of my teachers when it comes to hip hop education, Tony Blackman, and Lyricist Lounge being inspired by the Howard University Bison's crew, the Freestyle Union. And Tony Blackman, my freestyle teacher, was one of the Freestyle Union members. So that preceded Lyricist Lounge, and then Lyricist Lounge went on to inspire shows like Wildin' Out, which Nick Cannon is really big. And I know some of the generation now knows that show, but didn't know that it was Lyricist Lounge that made way for that. And again, like I said, that Howard University goodness over there. I think I seen Crone working with you. Was there a glitch in the Matrix?
It was working, but you were on what you were on. So I was like, let me not interrupt. But we are sharing, and you could talk over what you liked about the commercial as it's going. So I'm gonna put it on right now, and we're gonna start. And you can talk right over it.
Omar Epps, Juice, the movie Juice, an iconic movie in hip hop classic, in the bodega. The bodega is super important. Round the Way Girl song, and check the Black Panther sweatshirt with the rope chain. Very intentional.
So you're like all the little
nuggets. The coffee, all right, light and sweet.
Diplomat.
The juice, the sugar water.
Love.
The facts of life, that's what I call it. Now I was trying to figure out, was that a box? Was that a box?
Hello, Cool J cookies.
Right?
That's right.
Oreos eat Cool J cookies.
Right.
I forget. Lil Kim is rocking back in the city right there. That was a little Lil Kim plug. Might have missed that.
You good?
Rick Ross, DJ Scratch. Ross the Boss. Jay Kiss.
And I like his, he got chapstick.
Exactly.
Look at his lips. Right? Like, oh, you need some chapstick, brother.
Cigar for Rick Ross the Boss.
Passing through.
It wasn't no money in there, Cash Apple. And Have a Nice Day. See, on that bag, the Have a Nice Day, Roxy and Shantae show. Right?
Yes.
Getting in the low ride. Check this out.
Yeah.
To the east, my brother. To the east.
Okay. He asked him about some other stuff. He said, we'll get that when we get back to Queens. So also the unification between East Coast and West Coast. Right there, closing it out. Bringing us back together before all of the riff. Right?
And I kind of like that because, LL Cool J is going back to Cali. He's driving across the country back to Queens with Ice Cube from California. Like, there are all these little things that are in here.
Loaded.
Right. Like, you can actually watch this a whole lot of times and just be like, oh, this is great. This is great.
Shout out to Scarface, Trina, Nori. Again, people, there'll be more on there as well. DJ Zip. And that last line when he said, "To the east, my brother, to the east," that's an X-Clan quote.
More than that. More than that. Let me give y'all some history. The
Break it down.
East was the cultural bastion for the Black Power movement of Brooklyn. Right? The East had a school. The East was a performance space. Right? What we had in Newark under Amiri, Brooklyn had the East with G2 Wausi and crew, and you know, and so I'm having a senior moment. X-Clan came out of that.
Yes. Oh, so
Sonny Carson's son, Lumumba Carson is Sonny Carson's son.
Yes.
Right? They're Brooklyn babies, right?
Yeah.
It came out of the East. So the East is not, you know, it was more than a lyric. It was a real space when the culture was popping back in the early 70s.
Cultural cues and codes. Look at that. And shout out. And where do, matter of fact, this is Ramadan, right? Let's pay homage and respect.
Yeah, I just broke fast on the low talking about.
All right, right. And which direction do you pray in?
To the east.
To the east. To the east. I love this. You know, I could swing right there into hip hop education right there. Because these are the type of things.
Before you do, you mentioned the lyricist. Let's tell everybody where it's at.
At the world famous, only one of a kind, Mecca, Harlem world's greatest, the Apollo Theater. The Apollo Theater. And I think that's super important. First of all, it exists. I love that about Newark Symphony Hall, the Fox Theater, the Apollo Theater. These are significant for our culture, right? When it came to performance and what I've learned more about the Apollo Theater is backstage, the teaching and education that was happening backstage amongst African-American artists. That was a school. Backstage is a school. So the Apollo Theater, where one may go and demonstrate what they do and hope you don't get booed, right? but it was really the stage for the greats. So it always means something for those of us who grace and take that stage. It's very significant. And booing don't mean you're not great. Let's say that because they booed Lauryn Hill. That wasn't true though, right?
Whoa, back up. What? Wait, the Apollo booed Lauryn Hill?
Yeah, but you know, knuckleheads. You know,
wow.
Because now I grew up going to the Apollo as a child. My dad and I, that was our thing. All right, every Wednesday we get something to eat at Sylvia's and we go to the Apollo. And there was you know, the 90s, unfortunately, I'm gonna tell the truth. The 90s with the street economics happening, cats would be at the back of the top starting to throw money, and the ego and the arrogance and the ignorance really started taking over that space. You know, so first of all, she's talented, right? But some of that mix, and it's on YouTube. You can check out Lauren's performance when she was a child or when she was younger, but on YouTube, and she did fine. She did fine. So it definitely wasn't that Apollo, right? It was that amateur night experience. But you know, it grows you. It grows you. I got booed my first time performing at Johnson C. Smith in my alma mater. Come to find out it was the microphone. They said they was booing the microphone. I was so good. But one doesn't know that when they're on stage, but it grows you and it humbles you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a test.
Makes you work harder.
Resilience. Yes, resilience. You build. But we know Lauren is a great. She know that. Most importantly, she has knowledge of self. So she knows that she's great. That's so dope, man. I'm still on that X-Clan wave. I'm still on that Brooklyn East to the East wave.
East, oh yeah. I was gonna do a book on the East. I was supposed to have gotten an advanced degree from Amherst, UMass Amherst, but they lied and didn't let me in at the last.
Wow.
I've been trying to get an advanced degree for 30 goddamn years. Ain't nobody gonna let my black ass in the way.
Hey, you speaking right now. It ain't been written, but he's spitting.
Right.
You know, something I want to mention really quickly. This is because I'm more here with you, and I want to find out more what you all could tell me and tell you how this. You know, I'm grateful, yo. When you follow, it works. So I got a call, and I just saw last week the post for colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow was enough is on Broadway, right?
Back to that,
and
yeah.
I'd not seen the production before. And Suzaki, shout out to my sister Fayemi Shakur, right? Brought her that beautiful day in Newark. right? One of her last speaking engagements was here in the beautiful city of Newark.
Trying
Now,
to get me on. Mm-hmm.
yes. Now, of course. Now, this is showing at the Booth Theater. One of the things I was also excited about is that Camille Brown, one of the choreographers of our day, y'all. Camille Brown is good and bad. Not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good, as Run DMC says. Now, it has a nuance in it, right? There's some SWV, there's some double Dutch moves, there's hip hop elements all through it now. So it's definitely modern, right? But only the universe would have it that this week in the space, me unexpected and unprepared for the guest that was arriving. I was prepared for a guest to arrive Thursday to assist. And the person that I got to spend some hours with and just creating and building what we needed to get out for some young people was an original cast member of the first play.
I actually went to I'm old enough to have gone to the first play.
That's why I said I got to bring this up. That's why I said I got to bring this up. How significant is that play for our Black culture? And what she said, and what we talked about is I said, I love Camille Brown. And I said, and we're in 2022. They say, the 70s is a time. The 70s, the power of the time and of the day and of the way the story was told real straight and plain. That hasn't happened in my lifetime like that. So can you talk about that play, that time, anything you can share about that?
Well, I'm gonna tell you first, it was everybody wasn't feeling into Jackie when she did that. And let me tell you, and it's some growing up that we need to do in our community, right? Because the play is a watershed play about domestic violence, right? About mental health stuff, but the domestic violence, oh man, you shaming the Black man. No. Why can't we be honest about a problem that we have?
Yeah.
Right. So she took the play itself, like all great art does, transcends its moment and criticism where criticism is not, grounded as it should be. Right. So she transcended that. Right.
Yes.
And became one of our other. I mean, it was such an original presentation. Right. For theater art, for spoken word art, for that. She brought it. That started out as what she called it, a choreo poem.
Choreo poem.
Right? And if you look at her body of work, there's a dimension to that with almost all, even her cookbooks. And I got into Jackie stuff, right? Even her cookbooks have a flow that, puts you in a living space beyond just, 2 cups of this and a teaspoon of that. And a tablespoon of that, you know what I mean?
Alive, right? That's
what there's and I can't remember this scholar's name, but somebody I love was on a panel for women's history last year, and the sister out of the South, women's literature expert, referred to herself and into Jackie as what we call conjure feminists. What do I mean by that? Right? Yeah, is that Black women throughout the Africanity of our culture, West Africa, the Americas, right? On the plantation, before the plantation, and after plantation, have always had this space where they have relied on their traditions, their wisdom, and their spiritual instincts, right? To take care of us. Right? Yes. To conjure, to bring together, to bring out those things that we need to get through our rough stuff. Right? Some of it is very spiritual, some of it's very material, some of it's a blend of both, right? But it ain't coming out the drugstore.
Right.
Okay. It's one of those the healing dimensions of our material and spiritual culture. Conjure Black women strong in their space, knowing that if anybody is going to heal our people and help our people heal, they have no problem stepping to the front of that. Right? So it's a powerful expression of what that sister, and I can't remember her name. I feel terrible about it because I fell in love with it once she just laid out that term like that. And she was dead on with that. But it was
Thank you so much.
And Jacquie's a conjure feminist legend and she needs to be appreciated. And I'm glad as time went on, right, that she began to get her due.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's why I'm glad Fayemi gave her so much love here. And again, when we talk education, I think the space absolutely has to expand to have a variety of expression. You hit on a point that's important, that you're reminding me of the opportunity and accountability in being an artist. On one end, artists, the provocative, and the audacity to say, write, dance, move, shout, make sounds. Artists gonna push it. And it was a day I got
we're supposed to.
That's what we're supposed to. Amiri Baraka said something to me one day. I got to spend a day with Amiri Baraka. He said, "Isn't it our duty to bring truth and beauty to everything?"
We're supposed to do that.
He didn't say some things. He
That's
said
right.
everything.
Amiri and Amina was some of the first to support her during that period. And out of that came Amina's contribution. Amiri and Amina worked on it, called Confirmation, right? A collective of writings of Black women authors, right? Those that were not being heard as they should have been during the Black Arts Movement.
Well, guess who did it? Guess who did it again? And I'm fortunate, and I'm a beneficiary. Fayemi Shakur did that about 3-4 years ago with the with the Vumawala, and there's volume 2 coming out. Right.
Been trying to bring her behind on here. Yeah.
When we learning, right, this people may, in the school systems may or may not honor the story, but it's important that we're doing what we're doing right now. Thank you so much for taking that time to speak on it. I knew if there was a place to speak on it, and shout out to Camille Brown. I definitely, she is someone I have to read, learn, and know more about, because she is doing that and has been doing that in these times in a unique space. So the Camille Brown Dance Company, all of those really powerful, beautiful work. So many. Shout out to the ladies of Hip Hop Dance Company. I mean, I know I get on here and I'm a lyricist, but I also want to talk about, the range and the spectrum of the variety of artistry. And then shout out to there was the Grammys just happened this week, and winners and nomination. We have an interesting relationship with the Grammys, because as musicians, it is a height. Right. And it is, I'll be honest, it's always been something I wanted to open and close, and I will. I believe that. And then at the same time, yes, let's take a minute here. This sister, if y'all have not seen her work, Google her work. Read, listen to
That's a very Shango Sure image right there. That's for sure.
Yeah, she's keeping it going, keeping the line, the bloodline. For our people and our root work. There are many. This is one. And another one to break through on the Broadway, tip. That's kind of what I'm talking about, these relationships, spaces of accolade and achievement. We have to do it with still being grounded and being clear, right? So the Grammys is a very big thing. And we have that, like I said, interesting relationship. Will Smith being the first winner and also not going. So we Kanye, they said wasn't invited, whatever. Like Nas, he won, but they won because they make music. But we always know that does not tell us the standard of what's happening in hip hop.
Yeah, I was gonna just jump in and just ask some questions on that. Like what? Why even value the Grammys? Why not just go for the NAACP awards and call it a day? Because the Grammys, will they ever represent? Like, they don't represent Black people, let alone like hip hop, right? They're not for us. We're never by us. Why do we respect them? Why do we care?
An industry pillar. How can you say such a thing, Jonathan?
Well,
yeah.
Right. It's one. I ask myself that as well, because, like I said, it's still something there for me. I think there's an aspect of it, the fantasy, the Disney of America, right? What plays do and don't. But I do think, I know one thing I'll tell you on the business tip that I noticed: whoever opens and closes a Grammy is usually a part of that album of the year or song of the year, which means a lot of plays, a lot of purchases, right? And then it's a new level ground once you win or get nominated in your ask or your invitation. So it opens up worlds and spaces and lanes for you. And I always have to deal with this contemplation of that, because I turned down the music industry, right? But when I look at LL Cool J and Ice Cube, there's, in a sense, hits that they took, I'm sure, right? To be in the spaces, to be able to therefore resource, fund, converse, demand, command spaces.
But when you're looking at
it's a conflicting thing. As long as we know that don't make us great, right? We're gonna get it.
But also,
it's great.
But I'm looking at what's going on with college football right now, right? Like, and part of what makes the Grammys great is us, right? And it's us giving our consent. It's us making them what they are, right? Like with college football, what a lot of black colleges were like, well, you know, if we're black coaches, you're not hiring us for the head positions. We're going to go to these black colleges and you would send us to the communities to get these great black kids anyway. So the reason why that bump happens is because of us, right? Like the reason why, album of the, like we create the buzz. Without us, there is no cool.
It really is a microscope on culture. You know, the it becomes one of those. And I think there's an aspect of it that is performance amongst peers, maybe somewhat that could feed an aspect of competitiveness. But also one of those nights. Now you said something important. Why not the NAACP? I personally made my highest mark the Nobel Peace Prize, right? I think that is the ultimate award to win. So the Grammys falls probably number 3 for me because then there's also the Pulitzer, you know, Tony, and that's for what awards are or are not. I think the Image Awards,
and musicians won those awards. Like Dylan won the Nobel. You have Kendrick Lamar who won, I believe it was a Pulitzer. Right. So I mean, like, and well deserved, won that. So because he's a poet as well.
He is, and it's, you know, someone challenged me with some great opportunity to look up who else. You know, so many of us, including myself, knew Kendrick won, but can I list the name of other people of color and black people that have won? And then gave me an extra challenge, which was great research, and I invite the audience to do the same. Look up who has won 2 Pulitzer Prizes and see which black women you find. Right? And we don't know their names. And so the other part of that was complex about the Pulitzer Prize is how many ill lyricists did we have before that? You know, kind of like the Oscars and all this other things. So Oscars so white. Why did it take so long? What about this man right here? When it comes to a Pulitzer, right? So Rakim, I mean, we could go on and on, but we know that this is an aspect of industry in this capitalist society, but it's so important for us to not get hooked and let that determine our value. And that's what I hear you saying. Absolutely, NAACP. And like I said, the Image Awards, like the Image Awards seems like a special gathering, a special place to be.
And so does this segue well into the conversation about hip hop education? Like we started talking about what it is. I know we're going to run out of time but that's just because we're just going to need to have you back, right? We're just going to have you back in that conversation. But what can you remind us again? What is hip hop education, and what do you see is its potential role within the educational discourse for our community?
Yes, thank you for this question. I'm going to say hip hop education is number 1 because we're calling it. Well, number 1, what is education? Right? Knowledge. I'm thinking of KRS-One right now. Knowledge reigns supreme over everyone. There was nothing. And I misspoke that because a couple of words just came, but I'm like that, right? So what is it to be educated, right? And then specifically, my quick answer was going to say hip-hop education is arts education, right? Arts education is something that, at least in the state of New Jersey, on legally says that every single child is supposed to, and the plan is to receive arts education. So I, in my position, like to make sure that people understand hip hop education is art education. Now, what is hip hop, right? Now, hip hop is a counterculture. And so the hip hop education is a counterculture education, a different approach to learning and knowing and doing.
I'm gonna give you another weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Right. State also says, I'm talking about the Amistad law, says that Afro-American history and culture is supposed to be up in the schools too.
And
right?
corrected.
And then hip hop as a black counterculture is a part of our resistance tradition also.
Right.
It's a powerful tool for teaching literature, dance, theater, you know, all
All
of that.
of it.
So
All of it.
you
The
know,
written word, the
I'm
spoken
an
word.
old generals, baby. I want all the weapons on the table.
Throw them all out there, right? And it's something you said that's so important is, and I want to add is corrective African and African American or diasporic education. That's what's so important because technically the story's been in the books that way, right? And so to me, hip hop education, like I have several books around me by hip hop artists because nowadays I'm telling people center the artists telling their own story in hip hop education, right? So what does our libraries look like when we have hip hop education in there? It looks like documentaries and movies and films. It looks like reading lyrics, reading comprehension when you look at lyrics and you pull that up. It looks like colors and symbols and graffiti and graph writers, what they were using, right? The abstract art form, right? It looks like unpacking that and having to be literate or learning. So a lot of us as teachers have to learn what the artist is communicating or how to interpret the art, just like we do in other forms, right? So it's opening up the space for the counterculture. And I love this. I'm going to say this, and it's the perfect place to say it, right? I think the history of Africans coming to America is hip hop education. The history of African Americans prior to America, because hip hop uses everything and anything to create. And it's indigenous cultural practices.
That's right.
Collected from the diaspora.
That's right.
So you hip hop education, right? If you talk about African Bambaataa being a great writer who entered a rap contest, you talk about travels abroad and coming back and understanding collective community and organizing, and hence Zulu Nation.
Right.
Right. And so there's you when you talk about Kool Herc in those early years, you're talking about his move from Jamaica here, but you're also talking about the movement of people around the world and how
migration
change. Migration. Right. When we talk about hip hop education, it's so beautiful the opportunity to look at it regionally and to listen and learn codes and look at the evolution of art. We look at the evolution of art and music, right, through the culture. And so understanding that how the chain gang coded language shows up in hip hop. Looking at the call and response from church, listening to the blues, the lyrics of the blues is where we got writing from. Listening to speeches, super important. And I know jazz contribution to hip hop, but James Brown being the most sampled artist, and not only his lyrics, but his way or the drum beat.
Malcolm being the most sampled revolutionary.
You can't talk hip hop without talking revolution. And honestly, I always say jazz is to civil rights and hip hop is to the Black Power movement. And so I think hip hop makes for a demand to talk about, explore, learn, teach, highlight the Black Power movement. It's at least potentially there.
And especially there is one of our good friends, Marcus Rease, wrote a incredible work on hip hop called "Somebody Scream," and talks about the Black Power movement and the rise of hip hop. Is that what you're talking about in terms of
absolutely? Like, you can't talk about hip hop without talking about Abiodun and the Last Poets, right? And so you would have to open up your poetry classes. You would have to talk about the Mary Baraka. You have to talk about the riots from a different narrative. Why was the Bronx burning? Now you're going to talk about economics. You're going to talk about the choices to take art and music out of schools, and these young people.
Exactly. That's where it all come from, baby. That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And so then you're highlighting young people's resilience. So what's the opportunity is and the challenges is for those of us, and I love this because we have so many elders in hip hop culture, our culture, not just hip hop, right? The intention around preserving. And so many artists telling the story, right? And honoring our way of passing on information through talking. But now the hip hop education part is curriculum design. How will we teach the art form is the educational part. Teaching so that it's preserved, teaching so that hip hop still honors the voice of the youth, which is always what it's been about. And when I'm curious, because higher education has been researching it for about 15, 20 years. So now there's a lot more quote unquote credibility and validity and data. And so now K through 12 is taking this on. So I know we're coming up on time. So that's probably where we'll pause and we're going to get into it soon. But there's hip hop education. I'm over at NJPAC. I also work with the Grammy Museum. I got to shout out my man Al Tariq, the Hub. Hip hop education done like the Hub does in the community, in the park, with the people.
Lift him up. Good call.
Super important. You want to look at them.
Good videos.
So important.
Videos on here, do it.
Look at my man. Oh my goodness. Come on, name. My man, Jeff Billingsley, right? Who's been doing hip hop education in the city of Newark. I mean, in a transformative, big bridging way. So his young people that were in the program then are super brilliant, creating artists now doing the same thing, right? So I think I'm gonna stop right there. Sip water, breathe and sip water.
No.
I'm gonna be in this life for a long time.
Absolutely, and you're going to be on this show for a long time too, because we are definitely going to have you back. And because again, part of like what we want to do, what we need to do, right, is just understand the importance of the culture on all of us, on our daily lives, and the way in which we have like that we even think about liberation is rooted in culture, right? And so I'm always fascinated when you were talking about what you talk about. So we've had a great show tonight, and we've had we believe in civic discourse. So we have had on everyone who's running for the council in the South Ward. It's a hot race. There's 6 people running. We're going to be reaching out to people from the West Ward, another hot race where you got 6 people running, right? The West Ward of Newark. You got the East Ward of Newark, another hot race.
We got to do it on Kelly for Lords of the Underground running.
right. Like hip hop, Dupree Kelly is running. He's running on the mayor's ticket, right? And you've got a lot of people, right? Like who are coming out in all these races. Like these races, I believe, are going to be highly contested one way or another, because you've got a lot of people from the community in all walks, right? Like, and so I think that all of that is what we're going to be doing in the future. So this is another day on All Politics Are Local. We'll be closing out, but again, Purple Haze, I'm going to let you have the last word when we close out.
Yes, the last word for me is respect. This week is the birthday of Pharrell and the birthday of our forever legend Biz Markie, who once spent a lifetime in Newark. And so I want to just say thank you for your contribution, creativity, unique expression, and authenticity that has us rock.
All right.